Neither did I. All right, so we are live. It is 9:02 p.m. on August 26th, 2015. We have a threadbare group. Our the ever loquacious Barry is he's traveling or something. Was that what we understand? That's why the internet's super slow, or does anybody know the reason behind that?
I don't know. I didn't know he wasn't going to be here, but I'm not sure when he's here sometimes. So.
Yeah, but sure enough. Travis will be joining us later. He is, I don't know, playtesting some game or something that he may or may not publish at some point. But we do have the lovely Rhiannon.
Hi.
Hey.
Very nice.
Oh,
And of course, we have the professional hanger-on that is Keith Collins.
Hello.
And I believe Aldi will be on later, maybe, possibly. He's also a busy man as well, being worth $73 million and all that. So is anybody drinking anything? I poured myself a Guinness.
I've got a cup of water.
I was told I shouldn't drink anything other than water because of my back injury that I did to myself today. So.
What did you do? Yeah, what happened?
So we were in the park playing Giant Rhino Hero, like one does, and I went to go pick up my son, who weighs 50 pounds, and even though, legs were bent, I was, I just, all of a sudden, in the right side of my back, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. So yeah, I'm in a lot of pain, so any nonsense that comes out of my mouth, I'm just gonna blame it on the pain. The pain.
Well, doesn't whiskey help with the pain?
That's what I thought, but the painkiller whiskey combo I've told is, not great. Well, I mean, it is, but it isn't.
Very nice. Has anybody played anything cool lately?
I played La Granja wrong the entire game, and we figured out that we were playing wrong in the last round. So
what'd you do?
We didn't keep score correctly when we played stuff. They had done a demo. And we did not score the stalls as we put our markers out, so we shorted ourselves about 30, 40 points each. Because we're like, why does it make sense? And I blame the iconography in the game, because everything else that's giving you points shows a little point symbol. But that part does not on your reference card. And so we caught the part about scoring how many you had out there, but we completely whiffed scoring when we put them out. It was horrible. And to find it going into the last round was a flip the table moment.
But let me ask you, if it's something like that where you've missed a scoring thing for the whole thing consistently.
We played it. We played the broken people that can't read variant through to the end because there's only one round left. So we scored it based on the alternate rules.
That's the home. Yeah, that's our home rule.
Version. Then we broke out Champions of Midgard again, played that again, and that's a nice little worker placement game. You've got to aggressively go out and fight monsters or you will lose, and it feels pretty tight as a 4-player game. There are turns when you end up with just, well, crap, there's nothing worth doing. So the board is really tight for 4 players. But it's not a bad little game. I like it.
What game? I'm sorry.
Champions of Midgard.
Champions of Midgard. Yeah, I thought that was the killing the monsters. I'm worried a little bit about that strategy being predominant, but
I don't think there is any strategy other than killing the monsters.
Yeah, overall. I mean it's a good game though. I enjoy it. I like the theme and I like the look, and I think so.
Yeah, I found trying to run the Sage's Hut and getting as many in-game bonuses as you can as a strategy doesn't work, because I did all my bonuses and I finished a distant third. So.
Now, have both of you played Blood Rage yet?
I have not played Blood Rage yet. I'm waiting for my Kickstarter copy to arrive.
Can you just re-ask yourself that question, Lance, and tell me what you think my answer is going to be?
Well, I know you love great games, and so for you not to have Blood Rage.
Fair enough. No, I have not played Blood Rage.
That is game of the year, unless something really crazy happens. It's just, they could expand it so in so many different directions that I look forward to playing that game 5 years from now. And I don't say that about a lot of games, but I think it's actually one of those games that after the exploration is done, because it's all about the card drafting and getting the cards together that will allow you to win. The more strategies will evolve because like you'll know to keep certain cards out of people's hands, and like you'll take maybe suboptimal cards just because of that fact, and so there's all kinds of ways the game can go, and a lot of fun. So
hey Barry, what you been playing? I just had to point out
you didn't have any internet or something. I'm glad you can make it though, bud.
It's extremely poor. It's almost dial-up, so we'll see if this works. I
Okay,
might be you for a while without the picture.
Get the tin foil and the hanger and just, move it around. It'll be fine.
Barry, is that a pentagram behind you on the wall there?
It's a starfish, I think.
No, I like the fact that he's at his satanic retreat right now. I like that. I like that idea a lot better.
Yeah, I got the goat downstairs getting ready to get sacrificed.
Oh, and it appears you have some sort of frosty beverage behind you.
Yeah.
Or is that just a lamp?
That's a lamp.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe that was a beer or something. That looks like a beer to me. Or is that the base of the lamp, or?
What, this?
Oh
That's
yeah.
okay.
Okay. Oh, iced tea. Add some vodka to that already or something.
I could. Hold on, I gotta run to the store.
Where are you, Barry? Where are you? Why the change of locale? Are you in Estonia?
Yes. I'm right next to Robin, 2 villages down, one to the left. I'm in the Outer Banks. I'm in Avon, North Carolina.
Just visiting family or what?
We're on vacation.
Oh,
And mother-in-law.
very nice.
Yeah.
I hear people in the background.
It would be my wife.
The elusive Barry's wife.
Yeah, that's Jen. The hands you see in the video.
Yes. And I saw an arm. I saw an arm for like a half a second. So, excellent. Well, have you been playing anything new, buddy?
Nothing new. We just got done Diamonds and Arkham Horror again and a couple other longer games. Rococo. What else?
Ooh, Rococo. Dovetailing.
Yeah, that's it for now.
Would you say Diamonds is a good gateway game? I've had some people say it is, and some people say it isn't.
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, the rules aren't really that complex. Once you get, what each suit does, it's a pretty easy game to get down. Yeah, I think it's a good gateway game.
I've had that one backfire as a gateway game because people have said, well, if I'm going to play this, why wouldn't I just play Pinochle, or why wouldn't I just play Hearts, or why wouldn't I just play whatever? So it's been weird with that one.
Because I don't need the required standard number of players that I need with those games. So.
Well, I think if you are one of those types of players, though, like if that's what you grew up playing and that's what you know, I could see how Diamonds would be like, I don't know about this. But I like Diamonds. I think it's a good game.
That's an
I
excellent
played
game.
more euchre than I did anything else in college.
I cannot play that game to save my life.
And I like Diamonds after playing, an unreasonable amount of euchre.
Oh, euchre, yeah. I played a ton of euchre, played a ton of Hearts in college. I can still remember us sitting in this one guy's room where we played Hearts for hours and hours on end. Not even for money either. We just played it for fun and just BS and whatever. And it was like there was a beanbag chair, there was a folding chair, there was a keg that somebody sat on, and one person sat on the bed, and that was what we used for different spots. And strangely, the keg with a nice pillow on top of it was probably the most comfortable of the options. So we used to fight over who got to sit on the keg. Memories. College, but all right. Well, anybody going to any conventions anytime soon?
My soonest one's probably Lobster Trap, and that's the week before BGG, so I'm doing that one.
Whenever you say Lobster Trap, I think
I know.
I think it's dirty.
Well,
It, it sounds like a really skeezy whorehouse in Maine.
well, it's close. It's a really okay-ish hotel in Woburn, Massachusetts. So it's, tomato potato. No, but I'm excited about it because all the things that I wouldn't have been able to buy since I can't go to Essen will be there, so I can just play them, and it'll be fun. 4 days of just that.
Very cool. I've
Mhm.
got Grand Con coming up at the end of September, which Travis is upset because I might not be rooming with him now.
He was just
Yeah,
talking about snuggling with you the other day.
yeah, I know. Brian Lenz, the guy who runs it, he hooked Pat of Crash Games. He hooked him up with a two queen room, and Patrick is in there by himself, and so I think he's migrating me over into Patrick's room so we can both have a bed, and that's fine with me because Patrick is not that Travis isn't hilarious, but Patrick is a riot. He is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So I will. But I'm pretty sure Travis will say I'm cheating on him or something. But
Oh, I'm sure.
that's it. And then BGGCon off after that. And then I'm done. I'm done with conventions until. We have the Extra Life board game marathon here in town. That's not really a convention though. But then we got until Con of the North in February. Yeah, I'm kind of stuck without a convention for a while. It's weird though. I mean, it's like you go for a long time during the year without a convention, and then all of a sudden you just get kind of hit with a bunch of them right away.
You doing Origins next year, Lance?
Yes, as long as I can swing the time off of work and the money, I might end up doing Origins over Gen Con, honestly.
Mm.
Well, I mean, Gen Con I'll go to as long as I am able to get a room. Like getting a hotel room. If I can't get a hotel room next to the convention, I am not going to. I mean, and I'm willing to be like 3 blocks away or something like that. But if I'm like 15 minutes away by like car, I mean, like which a lot of people get hammered into, there's no way on earth that I'm going to go to Gen Con. I mean, I got lucky, and I had things fall into place perfectly for me this last year. I mean, basically, there was a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy that was not going to go, and then he transferred his room to me.
That's how I got to go.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
how I got to stay at a good spot, I should say.
Yeah, and in all honesty, the hotel, we were at the Union Station Plaza. I mean, I stayed at like a ton of different places, and then I got in that one. That's the best one I've ever stayed in because it literally my wife and I would walk out of the room, and then we'd take a right, and then there was the walkway, and it was like a 10-second walk almost to get right to the event center. So
I have not stayed in the same hotel twice at Gen Con yet.
I mean, the only thing cooler about it was the first year I went to Gen Con, which was like 4 or 5 years ago when Joel and I shared a room. We were like Saturday night after we'd been there for that many days. We were like walking back, and we ended up walking next to Tom Vassell. Hit the gong, somebody. And then we were just talking, whatever. And I forget which, it was like the Omni or whatever. And then so we're sitting there walking, and we're sitting there talking or whatever, and then we kind of realized that we're both walking the same way. We both entered the hotel, and we're like, "Oh, you're staying here?" He's, "Yeah, we're staying here." And we're kind of talking. He's like, "Oh yeah, me and Eric have a room." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then we get in the elevator, and we're like, "Yeah, we're on floor 9. I'm on floor 9 too." And then we kind of turn and we start walking down the hallway, and then we realize he's had the room right next to us. The entire convention. Just we had no idea.
Penthouse.
See, yeah, I never believed your stories were true until this weekend. Yes. Those are. Hey, who was that? That was a good gong. Way to go! I like that.
Who was that you're walking in the hall with?
Tom Vassell. Nice. All right. So, all All right, we were talking about a lot of different things we were going to talk about today. I mean, so if anybody has like any, well, I mean, does anybody have? I mean, like I said, like I'm pretty sure Blood Rage right now is my game of the year. Does anybody else have a clear-cut favorite for their game of the year yet?
No.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
I see you have a Heroes Wanted box behind you there, Rhiannon.
I do have a Heroes Wanted box. Where is it? Back there. Yeah, I got that. Is that my game of the year? Of course it is. No, it's not. Actually, I haven't played it. I actually haven't played it yet. But.
With the candles in the background and everything, you have a very, very neat glow of. I don't know. I just never mind. Yeah,
Well,
you look like you should be in a
sorry.
Lifetime movie or something coming up.
Let me get my blanket ready. So if I need to, is that better? Well, it smells nice. It's limoncello. It smells like lemon, and it's delicious. And anyway.
Very nice. You like the scent of lemon?
I do. I really do. I actually have a question about a game-related question, not just lemon stuff. So I recently got this.
What?
Trombone. It's by the Homa Only guy. He did the Russian Railroads and another really big game. Have you played that?
I don't own it. I've wanted to look into it, but I mean, it's a two-player game, and my go-to person right now for playing two-player games is my daughter. So, and I think that might be a little beyond her. It's one of those things. I think like if I have I might actually throw that into a cart because I think I want to buy Churchill right now. I'm thinking about picking that up.
Oh yeah, I really want to play that.
Yeah, so I was looking for like games to round out, to get that $100.
Yeah, it was cheap. It was like $12 or something where I got it. So.
Yeah, so I'm interested in that. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too where it's like it'll probably sit on my shelf for a while until a moment occurs perfectly for me to, because like kind of like Agricola, Creatures Big and Small or whatever, kind of same deal. It sat on my shelf for a long time before I was able to actually finally, in that perfect spot, be able to have one person that was willing to play at that time. So, but I mean, if it's Russian Railroads guy, I mean, it can't be too horrible, right?
Well, that's the theory.
I am flat out begging the publisher of Mule to. I'm offering bribes and money and anything. I was like, as soon as the game, I'm pretty sure they're annoyed with me at the point because they've actually responded to a fair number of my emails. That would be like the only game I think that would probably beat Blood Rage right now, because Mule is my favorite computer game of all time. I used to sit and play the computer like solo on my Commodore 64 when I was in high school. I played that game probably, I mean, no lie, I'm gonna guess 1,000 times. I mean, it was like literally, the game was so much fun, and if they've actually ported it over well to a board game function, I'm really excited about that possibility. But I mean, I was like, do you have copies? And they're like, we don't even know if we'll have copies for Essen. And I was like, well, you've got to have like proof copies. I was like, I don't really mean. It's just like, it's like I'm willing to pay. I'll pay you the money for the game and plus the shipping. Just get it to me. I don't know. I want that game more than my next breath right now. So, it's weird. I haven't been this excited about a board game in a while, so I'm kind of really, really excited about it. So. What? Paul Tompkins says Trombone is amazing. It's like better Lost Cities. Well, now all of a sudden I'm not really interested in it because I thought Lost Cities was a pile.
Well, notice I said doesn't take much.
Oh, there you go. I didn't see that was you actually, Rhiannon. That's fair. Chris Peach was also giving you the business, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I don't like good games and stuff. I'm sorry. I prefer wooden cubes to plastic figures. Whatever, it's fine.
All right. Did you ever play like Chaos in the Old World, Brandon?
I learned it. I had it set up on the table to play one night, and then everyone was like, "Nope, we're not gonna play this," so we didn't.
Okay. I'm trying to think about the area control games that would be kind of like Blood Rage. I mean, God, Blood Rage is just so good. I mean, just the card drafting, which, I mean, who doesn't like card drafting? Card drafting's like a great mechanism, and plus, like, all the different powers and things that you can do with your warriors and leaders and monsters and whatever. Ah, just such a good game. But,
I'd play it. I will play anything once.
Atta girl. Oh, Barry, you're back. You giggled or something. All right. Well, okay.
Get your Blood Rage, Lance.
Mr. Eric Lang himself had a. No, like I said, he was super cool. I met him at Gen Con, and he had a handful of copies that he was allowed to hand out, and he signed one and gave it to me. And
Yeah, I was standing next to you. I just did that so I could gong you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was pretty excited about it. But all right, so yeah, if anybody wants to talk games or something later on, feel free. Go ahead and speak up or what have you. So, Chris Peach, she loves the most boring, themeless games, unless you count Trading in the Mediterranean Sea theme.
And like I just said him, it just takes a little imagination to make something good.
That's one of the best SpongeBob episodes ever.
Yeah, that's one of the few that I will reference.
That I mean, SpongeBob is pretty good. Hey, have you ever read the SpongeBob is really this kind of like theories, whatever, and like SpongeBob is, because they're the bikini, whatever, they're like mutated sea creatures from the atomic bomb testings from the Bikini Atoll. It's kind of a neat fan theory. Google that sometime and read that. There's been given a lot of thought to that. Oh, my daughter wants to say hi, apparently. Hi, what's going on? I will come tuck you in just a second. Go get in bed. Oh, I love you. Mwah. She's getting her ears pierced on Friday.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I told her she wasn't allowed to get it done, but her and Mom kind of tag teamed on me and got me to. But we're not going to go to like some like Claire's boutique or something. I'm actually taking her to my tattoo artist, and their piercer is going to do it on Friday afternoon. So
I've had my ears pierced like 8 times, just like not because I have a lot of holes, but because my parents got them when I was too little, and then they closed up, and it was just a big mess. So yeah. Make sure she takes care of them. Spin them. That's important. You got to spin those babies, or it's just gonna close up.
All right. Well, before we get into what's going to be a long discussion, probably, let me put my daughter to bed, and I'll be right back.
We'll allow it, I guess.
So Ray, do you not like any tactical games, or it just depends on the game?
I like tactical games. I tend to not like 6-hour long. I've put all this effort and time and energy into it, and oh look, the dice roll have determined that I've lost the game. I am not a fan of those types of games. I would rather it be my idiocy that loses me a game than something random that I have no control over, or very little control.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. It's not boring. Exciting, thrilling things like survival of species and whatnot. Those are my types of games.
Okay.
I do not hate theme and miniatures, Chris Peach. Chris Peach just said I hate theme and miniatures. That is a lie. That is a bold-faced lie. I'm just going to say that.
I feel sorry for Chris Peach when he loses his throat the first time he meets you.
He's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
He is. Like, this is for the I hate theme and miniatures. This is for, like, boring games.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't know how mean you are.
It's always very mean, isn't that the case?
I just looked at you sideways once, and I was down on the floor gasping.
Well, Keith, I taught you, though. You haven't done it since.
Yeah.
So.
I know. I learned my lesson.
Keith used to be 6'5". He's down to 4'2" now.
Yep.
He really upset me. It was, it was a hard lesson, but he learned it.
Yeah, that's the last time I'll say Panamax is okay.
All right, that's it. 2-2 next time.
No. Oh God! All I did was. Oh. Oh, my. I did finally play my new Survive game that
Oh,
came
yeah?
out
How's
at Gen
that?
Con. The Space Tech. It's meaner than the first one. There's more stuff going on, but you can be meaner because you can take control of the guns on the space station and shoot the aliens, then they go in front of you. Then at the start of your next turn, you can put them out in any open space you want. So you're constantly able to just surround people with the board. And going at the end, I had one guy left on the space station. And my son had spent his previous turns going around and killing aliens before he escaped. They just kept him, and he sat on them. Next thing you know, I got one guy on one little island in the middle of the thing. He surrounds it with space creatures. So there's no place for me to get off to move. Fortunately, I had the cannon on it, so I was able to kill myself a path. But he wasn't messing around. He's a vicious little 11-year-old.
I like him. I like him a lot. I like the way he plays.
Now, is it
Sorry
worth?
about it, Dad.
Is it worth getting the new one if you have the old one, or no?
You don't need to get the new one if you have the old one. If you don't have a copy of Survive, and shame on you if you don't, you should get, well, if you like any kind of confrontational game, let me clarify that, then that's the one you should get. But you don't need it if you already have the other one, but I prefer it. I like it's got teleport powers. I like the little fighter ships. I think the Engelsteins did a lot of cool stuff to that version. And so it takes a classic game and just gives it a new twist. It's still fun.
No, I heard there's like a campaign version of it. Did you try that or no?
No, I haven't tried that yet. We just sat down and cracked it out and gave it a roll and to see how it went. He asked to play it again the next day, so he liked it too.
What game are you talking about?
Survive Space Attack.
Oh, yeah, that game's awesome.
Yeah, he also kicked the crap out of me. I made a big mistake because I thought I could get away with a big boatload of valuable guys, and I was dead wrong.
The big thing with, well, the one thing that I always worry about is that with those is just like the age-old put your most valuable guys with other people's people, and then they'll never they'll try to make sure that their people live. But you know, as soon as people realize that's what you're doing, they tend to kind of start killing off their people on you or whatever.
Which I found that tends to work better in a 2-player game. Once you get in a 4-player game, people won't care. They'll just kill everybody. Somebody will go over there and try to kill that boat or that escape pod.
Very cool.
I had a 6-player game once, and I didn't get a single guy to an island in the original. So,
has anybody here ever played the game, not Lifeboat, but Lifeboats? Where
is that the one with the boats or the one with the cards?
The one with the boats that you're trying to get to the islands and score points or whatever, and so it's all negotiation. It's all like trying to convince other people to allow your people to get there and prevent people from having you killed and whatever. It was a game. It was one of my few things that I ever really just wasn't a good game. I was super excited about playing it. I remember back when it was out of print, and maybe it's back in print now or something. I don't know, but it was out of print, and I remember I was super excited. I found a copy. We played it and just fell completely flat because there was almost no rhyme or reason to the process and the negotiation aspect. Because the only real mechanism of the game was negotiation and negotiation only. So I don't know, just a weird game. Regardless. All right. So and then with Lifeboat, the game that game is really good, from Guerrilla Games, I think, is the publisher. But yeah, that game's awesome as far as eating other people in your lifeboat to stay alive and stuff like that. It's wonderfully themed, Rhiannon. If Because I know you. I know a theme is very important to you with your games. So
I would rather play a game where I'm eating other people on my lifeboat than have to be pure negotiation with let my dudes on, don't let my dudes on. I'll do this, I'll do that. Yeah.
fair enough.
That's because the last negotiation game you played landed you in jail.
What?
Cut off my secrets.
Well, you know, she just stabbed 3 people when they wouldn't agree.
Hey,
Nice.
Tammany Hall can be vicious, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Tammany Hall is
I hate
great.
that game.
How can you hate Tammany Hall? Tammany Hall's amazing.
Game's horrible.
Oh, it's so great. Mostly because I can always, like, trick this one person. I'm like, oh, there's, like, 6 guys in here, and then there's nothing, and he's spent 8. I'm like, yes, every time, sucker. Anyway.
Oh, nice. All right, so there, my daughter is safely, theoretically, falling asleep, and so cue an hour and a half from now from her getting up and needing a glass of water or something. But all right, so yesterday, and I'm just going to kind of go on a little preamble here, and so I'll try to keep it short, but it's me. So yesterday, if you were part of the Twitterverse as far as games go, board gaming, and you were part of the like as far as other board game media personalities and designers and publishers and what have you, there was a bit of an uproar as far as equality in gaming, and that's a very macro, high-level take on it. And I'm going to ask everybody that's part of this right now. I can't really I can't police the comment section, but as far as the people that are in here right now, we're not going to name any names. We're not going to call anybody out. I don't want people like mentioning anything in specificity or anything like that. But you know, a while back, we had an episode of this hangout that kind of after it was over, feelings were hurt and questions about understandings as far as quality, you know, in gaming as it pertains to sexism and things like that. What was brought up, and people, and I don't think people's like toes were stepped on, so to speak, or maybe they were. I don't know. And the thing is, I'm one other preamble before I even get to this. I'm going to try my damnedest to not offend anybody with anything that I say, and I'm going to try really hard to be an objective where I can, but I do have opinions and what have you. So I apologize if I offend somebody with what I say, but I mean, I'm just going to try to say how I feel and try to understand what's going on. But you know, and toes obviously were stepped on or something along those lines, and then yesterday, I don't even know how it got started. I don't really care how it got started, but there was a very, very long discourse as far as the role of women in board gaming and the hobby of board gaming, and this is something that's been going on now for quite a while. I mean, it's like it's an issue that's gained some steam, and you know, as with anything, it ebbs and flows, and you know, and it becomes, but it is something I think that is worthy of talking about, and I do think that the impetus of it getting out there and having people focus on it is a good thing, and I think talking about it is a very, very good thing, because it forces people to you know, address it, you know, and think about it to themselves, even if they you know, their opinion is different from yours. It's actually getting it out, and it's being spoken on. And the weird thing is that we have a hobby that is board gaming and gaming in general that is predominantly male oriented. I mean, the games you could say it are geared you know, in some way towards men, and then more so I'd say as far as video games go, but in board gaming as well. You know, you see games that are you can tell they're marketed more for men than women. I mean, there's some that are just very. Joel Eddy did a fantastic video blog earlier today where he kind of went through his top 100 games, and he kind of pointed out that you know ones that were and weren't, you know, marketed, what have you, and you have a situation where I think, in my personal opinion, you have a group of people. You have women that are interested in board games, interested in role-playing games, interested in tabletop gaming, and there are factors, there are issues that are preventing them from perhaps enjoying it on the same level as men in the hobby. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's a fallacy. Maybe that doesn't exist. I don't know. But I mean, enough people are talking about this that I guess there must be some credence to it, some weight to it. But is this, and this is rhetorical, and or hypothetical, or whatever you want to call it? I mean, it is a question that needs to be answered. Or is this a situation where you have a minority of people in a minority of people in a subset that is very vocal, and so is the problem as widespread, or is the issue as big as some people want you to think? And I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just kind of throwing that out there in the hopes that we can have kind of a discussion about it. And also, I want to talk about if there is sexism going on, if there is a negative attitude towards women being included in our hobby, what people can do to make it better, or to fight against it, or to work against it. So, yeah, I'm going to shut up for a while, and I'm going to let somebody else say something. I know I probably maybe possibly gotten somebody who wants to say something at all. So go ahead, talk.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be ducking out soon, so I'll say my 2 cents, and that's probably when I'll take my leave.
You are going to answer questions after you say what you got to say, because I'm not going to let you escape.
Okay, so I absolutely am in favor of improving the diversity within the hobby, whether it's women in gaming, minorities in gaming, or anyone else. Gaming is a social activity. It's something where we want to be inclusive, we want to grow the hobby, and we should be embracing to our fellow human beings in general. And we really need to work toward that as gamers ourselves, because we can't change the entire industry, but we can do our part. From my point of view, what can I as the average gamer do is, if I see someone being a jackhole to somebody else, defend that person to an extent. If they're trying to defend themselves and are getting bullied on, defend them. If they're not, if they walk away or whatever, but you at least call the person out on it. You don't have to come running chivalrous to their aid, because that could be its own problem. But if you see somebody being a jackhole, call them out for being a jackhole. Tell them it's not cool. At a minimum, that's what you should do as a good human being. So I'm all in favor of doing everything we can to do that. I don't know all the steps to take. That's not something that I'm going to do as just a hobbyist and a game player. But I will say...
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to address this so I don't forget these questions that are coming to my head. You say calling somebody out,
Yep.
or basically like saying that you need to shut your... Why do you think that's a problem? Why do you think more people don't? I mean, I have an answer to myself, and I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'm going to probably respond. But I mean, that seems, and I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate here, and it's just, and so I apologize for that. But
so it's tough because I've never been in the situation where I've needed to do that, because I play with a small group of people. We play in a private home 99% of the time. When we played in public, it's never been an issue. So I don't go play in Magic tournaments. But there's also the other peer pressure, that if everyone there is a jackhole, then the pressure is to be a jackhole. And that's the unfortunate side of the social ineptitude of a lot of members in the hobby.
Well, and I think what I was kind of spinning towards here was the fact that, yes, I mean, gaming and tabletop gaming in general, I mean, it isn't like you're playing a video game where you're on a headset and you are connected to the internet. You are, like you said, you are predominantly playing this as a private game in a private home. The people you play with, you're not inviting strangers off the street to come in and play games with you. You're playing with friends. You're playing with people that you know. But here's my question, and this is me. I know personally. I mean, here I sit down at a table and I've got these people that I have played with and played these games with for the better part of 3 decades. I mean, just like playing D&D with this group of people that I play with. I mean, we started playing when we were in 5th grade, and these are the same people I play with. These are the same people that when I was growing up, we would, and I'm like I said, I'm not gonna shy away from words here, but we used to say things like "that's so gay," or we used to say, oh, it's like when we play a video game, we would say things like, oh man, you just got raped, and we would say those things because we didn't recognize them as being offensive. We didn't recognize them as being a problem, and an argument can be made, on either side technically. An argument can be made that where you can say that. It doesn't matter if it's private or if all your friends know you're joking. I mean, you can say, oh, you just got raped, but, and it's with the same 3 guys you've played these games with all the time. But if you have a situation where it's like, when you say that, even if it is in a private situation, or if you make derogatory comments towards women or towards minorities or towards homosexuals or whatever, and you're saying that in a private situation, people will say that it reinforces later on for those people to have those feelings of prejudice and being racist and being sexist and things like that outside of that situation. And I mean, it's tough. I mean, I've actually called out friends. I mean, recently, and I'm not. It's weird because it's like I actually kind of looked at it, and that's one of the things I think why this dialogue is great, that people are having it, where I maybe don't like the people, don't appreciate the way it's being presented to me sometimes. I don't like that it's being the way that I'm encountering it. It's at the very least making me address it myself. And I think one of the things is that I've actually found myself calling out friends that I've known for nearly my entire life for saying things that are just, I just said, hey, that's racist. I'll just say that to them. And not like, trying to shame them or anything like that, but just trying to make them aware of what they're saying as well. And it's weird because it actually makes them, it does make it weird, I guess is the word, because it's like you're dealing with people that I've never said anything like that before. But I think people are respected though, even though I'm supposed to just kind of understand that, they're not technically, really feel that way. They're just saying it for maybe the shock value or just because it's so commonplace. I don't know. And do you encounter that, Keith? I mean, do you have this group of people, these friends that and it's just you will off-color comments like that if you knew nothing about them, if you didn't have any kind of background with them, would you think it was offensive from what they say?
Oh, I'm sure there's times about that. I'm sure there's times I'm that way. When I'll slip and say something that I have not completely deprogrammed out of my system. It's when you're the age that we are, society used different terms when we were growing up. It was even worse for our parents and their parents. And while you see people trying to change to what is now acceptable societal behavior, those changes are hard when they're ingrained as patterns over time. So, like you said, saying something's gay, and you don't even mean homosexual when you say that. That's not even the thought that's in your mind, but that's what somebody that didn't grow up that way, or somebody that's in that class that is viewing that as you using that as an insult, is going to view that. So it's one of those things that you have to consciously work out of your system as you get older, and that's what becomes hard to break those old habits. But we continue to do it. My kids don't say things like that because that's not the way they're learning things growing up. And good, then their kids will have it even better at some point. But I still have great aunts, uncles type relatives that use the N-word because it's not a bad word to them. They grew up knowing that word. That's how they used it, and it's a shame. And you tell them, hey, you can't say that in front of my children. What did I say? They really literally don't even realize it. And so, yeah, I'm sure some of that stuff translates to the game table, and most of the time it probably goes right through your head because you don't even realize it unless somebody, like you said, mentions it.
Do you think you'd be comfortable calling that out to somebody at the table?
Oh,
Or do
yeah,
you think,
I don't care.
or here's the better question. Or do you think you should have to, in a private home, with playing a game with your 2-3 buddies that you've known for a great deal of time? I mean, do you think that that's a situation where you need to do that? I mean, I'm not trying to call you out here. I'm just trying to think, because I mean, I would fully agree that if that a case can be made that if your friends, if that they don't feel that way, if that, or even if they did have some sort of prejudice mentality towards a minority or towards females or towards homosexuality or whatever, they would never allow themselves to treat people like that poorly. Even if they had some weird reservation or weird thing about them.
Most likely, I'm not going to call it out in a private setting and make everything awkward. And probably, maybe I should. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'd be a hypocrite if I did say it sometimes. We grew up telling each other when you're playing golf and you hit it short to hike up your skirt and hit it. That's the way you learn to play it. That's the way you were taught by your PE teachers to play it. You try to break those habits as much as you can. So I don't know. I fully. But in public, it's a completely different story for me.
When we play softball, if a guy is going over, and people say, it's just it's like, do I need to get your skirt? I mean, maybe if somebody will say that, and it's
that's
just
sexist as hell, man. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that.
And I mean, and this last summer, I mean, 12, 14 guys sitting there playing softball on my softball team. I was 0 for 4, and somebody just said, "Hey, I got your dress back in the car if you want to go put it on before you're next to bed," and we all laughed. Is that wrong? Is that something that we shouldn't? Barry, what do you think?
I don't know. I agree. I think it's a generational thing, like you were saying. I can remember growing up, faggot was a common term used all the time, and now it's a no-no.
It was a lyric in one of the greatest rock songs ever. About I was just thinking about that. The song came out. Yeah, by the Dire Straits. That little faggot's got money for nothing. It's like got his own jet airplane. That little faggot is a millionaire. And that was a song that they played on the radio, and they didn't bleep it out. It was just on the radio.
No, and they would bleep damn on that radio station, but not that. It is truly a generational thing, and is it wrong? Yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah, but I grew up in a racial house, and I see as the generations are coming, it's dwindling out. I have a cousin who's married a Puerto Rican guy and stuff like that. It's slowly dwindling out. And I think eventually it will, But what I think with the generation behind us, they have the victim complex sort of, to me, and that's just my thought on it. They have to have their versions of things right, and if you challenge it, then you're wrong. I see that a lot, especially on Twitter and all that.
Well, I will say that if I was them, I don't want to wait a generation. I want to be treated equally now. So I understand where they're coming from. I don't disagree with them. But you mentioned Twitter, and I think with the incidents from yesterday and what went on and the things firing back and forth, the worst possible medium to use to try to tell a coherent message is Twitter. Because you take all the devils that are in email, which is you take all the context, all the tone of voice, and you put it in straight text that is going to be read in the worst way possible in somebody's head. Then you take that and you chop it up 140 characters at a time, so while you're completing a thought, that's all that person sees, and they start to respond. Mm-hmm. And all you do is create animosity between everybody involved in a lot of ways, because you're communicating a serious message in a medium that's not designed to convey it. You are setting up for people to just flame. And it's the worst possible thing. If you sat down and had a chat with somebody about it, it would be great. If you had a nice, thoughtful blog post, it's not the best thing in the world, but it's better than 140 characters at a time. And that's not how you affect change, by throwing out a 140 message saying, oh, we need to change, because that doesn't tell anybody how you need to change. The way you affect change is to go out and affect change. You go to a game store and you set up a ladies' night. You call out people that are being jackholes. You talk to people about things you would like to see, or things that, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? I mean, but you also don't go and mandate and demand either, because that's not going to work. You have to work in collaboration with people if you want things to change. That's how change happens. It's a collaboration. Because those that have things the way they want it now are never going to change if you tell them they have to and try to make it uncomfortable. They're just going to avoid you and make the problem worse. And so you really need to have a mode of communication that has give and take and clear communication, not just spewing out a few characters at a time. And that's the last thing I have to say on the topic.
Yeah. well, I agree that Twitter is probably not the best method to have an in-depth discussion about something that people have been discussing at length in person with way more than 140 characters and have never come up with a solution. But by the same token, though, I mean, I live in a situation where it's like, okay, so I mean, when I was a kid, I was surprise, part of the nerd group, and we got picked on and we got bullied at school, but we got past it. We just we kind of banded together and played our D&D together and whatever. But what somebody pointed out to me, I said, I know that my daughter's going to get picked on because she's different. She's going to be a little nerd, and she's not going to be. I don't think she's going to be part of the popular group, and I know that's going to happen. But I said, she'll get through it. And then somebody pointed out, but this is the internet world, though. They said, because the bullying doesn't stop once you leave school. It's like people are going to be texting her. People are going to be posting about her on Facebook and saying mean things and message boards and what have you, because you can't avoid it. And it's a weird world we live in now. I mean, and we might not agree that Twitter is a good process to have at length discussions, but I think people like the fact that they can just drop a line and drop a message and hit send, and there it is. There it is for the world to see, and
which makes it an excellent weapon to use against other people.
But it also, I mean, devil's advocate time here, but I mean, it also obviously is a way for people to get an important message out there for people to encounter and make them think and what have you. Rhiannon, you've been sitting there quietly, I'm sure, just processing or sleeping.
Well, I can sleep with the eyes open now thanks to being part of this. But kind of a point to, I don't know, I've been reading over here in the comments, like, you create the environment you want to be in and everything like that. And I agree to that to an extent. Like, if there are people that you absolutely do not mesh with personality-wise, it's probably best you don't seek them out on purpose to then create some kind of hostile environment. But on the other side of that, is like on something like Twitter where you can mute, block, unfollow, refollow, retweet, whatever. If every voice there is the same because you've tailored it to be that way, then you're just creating an echo chamber, and you're not going to find anything productive in an echo chamber. It's all going to be like, this is the thought. We all think this thought. Yes, this thought. Yes, this thought. And you know what? There are going to be things that piss you off that other people say, obviously. And yeah, it's going to be crappy to hear that a lot or sometimes or however often it may be. But if you're asking something from somebody, and like, so yeah, I'm like rambling and whatever.
No.
If you're asking something from somebody, I think you need to give them the respect, whether you think they deserve it or not. So, oh God, like I am the worst at this because okay, I'm gonna take a break for a second.
Okay, that's fine. I think where you're going with that is right there, and I mean I don't want to speak for you and know and pretend that I know exactly what your point was, but
well, I'll stop and I'll say, I got okay. So I am a woman, obviously. Like I identify as female and all of that. Well, I'm just saying I am letting everybody know that that is what I consider myself to be, and I get that there are a lot of men around, and I get that men have had the podium, if you will, for the majority of the time. I understand all of this. I think what is dangerous is the idea that now it's my turn to talk and it's your turn to listen. Because there are men who want to help change to make the world more equitable in any kind of, whether it's I want to have boy and girl characters that just flip over, like Portal, or I want to be more conscious about my pronoun choices and my rule books. There are people who happen to be men who want to help voice and activate this change. But by kind of being abrasive with your ideas of change, as a woman saying, I'm a woman, I'm talking, you be quiet, you're a man, you've had long enough to be whatever you needed to say, it's been said, I don't think that's right. Do more men need to listen? Maybe. But you know what? Women also need to listen as well. And I know we do a lot of listening, and I mean, you guys all know personally, like, I've got a lot of, triggering stuff with that kind of situation, but I still think you need to give respect to the other voice. And I guess that's my super long-winded rambling, because I do that when I get nervous, thing to say about that all voices deserve respect, whether you agree with them or not. And the only way to really initiate change is to have a dialogue, not just an echo chamber.
No, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. No, it was. I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, I can see that the whole mentality of, if you want me to listen to you, you need to speak to me on equal terms. But at what point, is it right for me to say that to somebody who I haven't let them be on equal terms with me to begin with? Hey, Anthony, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm having computer issues here.
No, I can hear you, buddy.
We're not playing the Resistance, okay, Anthony? This is a chat.
That is a heck of a throwback right there.
Okay, so here's my thing, and this is where it's tough. If somebody gets in your face, and I'm talking, and this applies to me as well as almost anybody. If somebody gets in your face and says, you're helping sustain this issue, you're part of this problem, and if I feel, that I don't I don't personally believe that I look down on anyone. I've always, I mean, there was a time in my life when I did have, I mean, there was a time, I'll fully admit, there was a time in my life when I was much younger than I am now, that, homosexuality creeped me out. I was just like, I had a very difficult problem dealing with that, and it took, it was one of those things where I actually had to like be out in the world and be friends with people that were friends with homosexuals, and then I actually started spending time with them, and then I realized that that wasn't the only thing that defined them, and it became, it was like, it's like, oh, and then I had this moment of awakening where I said, wow, I've been a colossal dick. I mean, I never said anything. I never was like, oh God, you creep me out or anything like that. But I was just like, but my inner feeling was one of very like paranoia. That's kind of a bad word, but I mean, I didn't handle it well, and I had preconceived notions of people, and it was something that I had to get past, and it was like, and I do. I mean, I at least I think I do. I mean, I have no issues whatsoever, and I like to think that I feel that way as well. I have a friend that I used to work with. His name was Dwight, and he used to say, "I let everybody prove to me that they're an asshole before I assume they are," and I always thought that was a great statement. It was just kind of like one of those like, oh, and it's just like, but it's tough. I mean, you see somebody and everybody judges. You see somebody by the way they dress, or the way they're acting, or the car they're driving, or the way that they're dealing with their children, or any number. I mean, and fully admit their gender, their race, everything, and unfortunately, we as people we judge. We don't give people. I think like the initial reaction is to judge somebody from what our initial esteem is, and then we actually have to be mindful of like pulling ourselves back and then saying, okay, forget everything that I just thought of that person. Let's find out exactly what this person's about. And the thing is that I'm one to speak. I mean, like for the longest time, since I looked like this at my job, everybody thought I sold drugs. It was one of these weird things where everybody was like, "Oh, that's the hippie who sells marijuana," and I've never done drugs in my life. And like I had numerous people ask me if I had anything for sale, and I was just like, "No, I'm not a big stoner. Sorry," And then they'd get all worried, like I was gonna rat them out or something. I was like, "No, I don't care." It's just But that's a situation with weird preconceived notions. Now, the problem is that, other than Rhiannon, right now, I mean, everybody here that we're talking, I mean, we're all white males, and so the argument is that we have inherited a great deal of, like status in society. It isn't our fault, and it isn't. Our there's something we shouldn't be ashamed of it, but I guess I do understand when people say that we have to work harder to understand what other people feel and what and try to like as the saying says, walking a mile in their shoes or what have you, and that does pour over into the gaming world as well. I know Anthony's probably chomping at the bit to say something.
Yeah.
What do you got? So Barry,
He's
go.
not here. He's not.
Oh, he vanished on me? Oh, okay.
Keith's going to bed.
Keith's going to bed?
Yes.
Good night,
Because I'm about to fall asleep. So.
You're about to fall asleep. Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, my friend. And next time we'll just talk about we'll get Travis on and just have him go off on 17 tangents so we can just listen to him.
But ultimately, my stance is be cool to each other, don't be a Wheaton to each other. So.
Oh, getting a knock on Wheaton right before you leave.
That guy's a dick.
I'll withhold judgment.
Yeah. All right, good night.
Good night, Keith. Be better, man.
All right, Keith.
No, I mean, okay, Barry. I'll let you ramble. Go.
Okay.
So, where were you born? Just give me an idea. Where were you born?
I was born in Philly. Yeah, and I lived
Okay.
there up until about 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
All right.
So, and Philly, racially, it's very segregated. You know, there's nothing but white neighborhoods and then black neighborhoods. You know, so and that's how I grew up. Like I said, very racial family, and it is fading out with the generations coming up. But my question is, I've noticed with the social media, a lot of stuff gets overblown. You know, I mean, somebody could say something harmless, and then, you know, everybody attacks them, or they could not mean. It comes off differently than what they mean. A lot of the board game, people in the board game groups here are, or were one time outcasts, right? Nerds or geeks or whatever you want to call them. Do you think that plays into it? Like, they've been picked on their whole life as a child, and this is their way of expressing themselves now?
The social media part of it, like being
Yeah, that's what
active.
I'm getting at. Yeah.
Oh, I like have a semi-related, probably not related at all, thing to say to that. I think that gaming is often a place of escape for people who might have, as you suggest, been some kind of outcast, a nerd or a geek or whatever they might be. Normal, if that's a thing at all that exists, but gaming is a safe place for them to be. They might have high demand jobs where they're like, I just want to get away from that, whatever, like I work in Wall Street and I'm done with that. I want to go blow stuff up in a space game, Twilight Imperium or something. Like, I want to do that for 8 hours. Or they might have kids. Like, I want to get away from my kids sometimes. I have little children, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is my escape. I want to go to gaming where I can just push my cubes around the board and pretend like I'm in 1775. Like, that's what I want to do. And I think that the more people might get involved with social media, even if they're not active, the people who are more vocal, I almost want to say have responsibility. Like yesterday, I said stuff like I said that, I think saying I don't have access because I'm a woman sells myself short. I believe that 100%. I've never once believed that what I can't and can't do or get to is because I'm a woman. Like, I am more than that, and it's probably worse for me because then I take it personally and I'm like, it's my ability, it's my intelligence, it's these other things. And I apologized at the end of the day because I felt bad. Like, I don't feel like I was attacky, but something I said yesterday might have made somebody uncomfortable. I mean, I have enough followers. It's like any one of them could have been made uncomfortable by something, and I am horribly uncomfortable by a lot of things that were said yesterday. And yesterday, like, I really wanted to not game ever again. Like, I want to go to gaming to be safe and away from all of the, like, stupid kid stuff, screaming mommy, like, whatever nonsense I deal with in my daily life. And when I go here and it's like, no, we're going to deal with all of these heavy, important topics. Like, it's not important, but, like, this is my escape. When I want to deal with those type of topics, I go, like, work in a women's shelter or something. I go somewhere where I can see the change I want to make. I separate the two. So for me, especially as someone who is coming, in this transition period, coming out of what I've been going through, like, I'm losing that space. And that's why I apologized yesterday, because I might have made someone else not feel comfortable being in gaming or part of gaming media. And that makes me feel like shit, because I also use that area as a safe place to go to get away from whatever I need to get away from. And if I'm there and there's this other thing that makes me not want to be there, like, that's not okay. Like, I don't know. It's a complicated thing. But, yeah, so I'm going to shut up again because I ramble too much.
No.
No.
You were
But
making
this
more
is what
sense.
this is what I was getting at. That was your belief, what you wrote yesterday, correct?
It was,
On
and
Twitter?
I'm not sorry I said what I said. Like, I don't think yes, I look around me and there aren't a lot of women. I see that. Like, I don't think that that's inherent of some kind of like, it's not an inherent injustice. Like, women just might not like to game. Women might be involved in other things. They might be taking care of the home, whether you think that's right or wrong. And quite frankly, when someone tells me that a woman is like represented in a game as having a baby, like you're the baby maker. I was a baby maker, and I'm fucking proud of that shit, okay? So, like, to tell me that I'm not a woman or I'm not, like, feminist enough because I chose to stay home and have babies really offends me. But, like, I don't know.
No, that's. I appreciate. No, I appreciate what you're saying, but. Okay, so here's the problem though, and once again, I'm not trying to stir pot here, but my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she's an amazing mother. I mean, she would there's nothing that she wouldn't sacrifice for her children or her grandchildren, and she's an amazing human being, and she doesn't regret not having a career in the slightest. And I agree with you. If somebody were to tell me that by being a baby maker and being a mom and just all she did was raise kids, that my mother, was like less of a woman than somebody else, I, would have a serious issue with maintaining my pacifism. Because as you say, fuck you. It's just like that's your choice. Now, but the thing is that if people, you want to be able to say that and want to be able to, like, I think, or if people are under the impression that, like, I'm going to show my femininity, I'm going to show my womanhood by going out there and being successful and achieving, great, financial or success in the job market or whatever, and that's and that's how I'm going to prove that we're equal. I don't have a problem with that either. I don't. I just have a problem with people trying to tell me or tell other people that the way that they're expressing their femininity is wrong. And I think we run into a lot of issues where people are just don't have the ability on either side, on both sides, to understand, why the other person understand the other person's opinion and understand why they feel the way that they do. And I think that inherently is where the friction starts. Because I do think the vast majority of people are very live and let live. You go do your thing. And that's fine. Even if they disagree with that person, they think they're a loon, they're just going to say, you know what, you're not bothering me. You're not screwing anything up for me. My biggest problem, and I'll be fully, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I really detest the loud 10%, it seemingly, of the people that raise the most noise, and those are the ones that people care the most. Nobody cares about, like, the vast majority of people that just don't seem to mind. They're just complacent. I need to go down there to the people and tell them, how they're screwing up their life. They don't care enough about this issue.
This is where like I said earlier, you need to be careful as the most vocal. You don't know what you could be destroying for somebody else. While your cause might be important, and like, yes, like, there aren't a lot of women playing games, and it just might not be because women just might not like games, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. Like, but if I believed women should play more games, like someone suggested earlier, I should go start a gaming group. I should be actively working to make that a possibility. If I think there should be more women in games, I don't think that's up to me as a consumer beyond purchasing that game or not. If I don't like the way women are being represented, and that will speak, I think that's on the designer, honestly, because it's their vision, and it's their responsibility as the artist will say, like, this is super whatever lame, but to push design forward. And if design is like, hey, this is a lot of white dudes, let's switch this up and make it something more, then they should do that. I mean, and like, even if it's something as simple as like, well, I just like to make trading in the Mediterranean games. Well, why does it have to be the Mediterranean? Why can't it be anything else? And even if it was a trading in the Mediterranean, why couldn't you make it be equal, like guys and girls? Why couldn't you set it in space in the future where you can make anything exist if you want? Like, I think that there's, like, I don't know. And then if it's not the designers, which I kind of feel like maybe it is, but if there's too many of them trying to be like, I have a vision and damn you all, which is their right, then the publishers need to take the watchdog position and be like, look, these are the games we're publishing. You will have equal representation or not. Like, and if you don't, we're not going to publish your game. But again, like, as the consumer, even as a female consumer, I don't think it is at all my place to even like be like, hey, like if I know Travis and I was like, hey Travis, you know that game, like in private, had a conversation, cool, that's excellent. Send a private email, excellent. But I mean, if there's a relationship between you and a designer or an artist or something, I think you should use that relationship to have that conversation in private. I don't think that everybody in the world needs to be part of this conversation, no matter how much you believe in what you were trying to do. I think, I don't know. I feel like I won't buy your game if I don't agree with it. And there are games that I won't buy because I'm like, I'm all set with that. I don't know. I ramble. I'm done now. Someone else talk. No, I'm done. I'm like, I just gotta, like, so honestly, and this is like, I have never, well, I've never questioned who I am or what I believe in more than I have in these last couple of days. And really these last couple of months, the more I've gotten involved in the social media side of things. And it's not from men making me feel like shit. It's honestly, and this isn't like my, you know, I'm fragile or whatever. Yeah, I'm fucking fragile, okay, because I have emotions and I'm a human being, just like everybody else on the internet has emotions and is a human being. I don't know if I'm like woman enough. I honestly don't. I don't know if who I am is okay. Like, should I care more about these things? I don't know. I really believe that as an artist, designers should make what they want. As a consumer, you have a voice, sure, you do, but to assume that you get to be like, this is not okay. Like, a game about murder has blood in it. Of course it does. It's about murder, but I don't know. And I think that that's, like, if I feel this shitty, I'm sure there are other people who feel shitty too, and I think that's sadly the direction a lot is going lately, is that there is a, this is the way, and this is like tunnel vision, echo chamber stuff, and I think that's unfortunate and sad.
Or you are who you are, and I think you're a great person, you know, regardless of what everybody else is shooting around.
I agree with the first part of that comment that Barry. No,
do you?
I think it's a very. I mean, I'm sorry, Barry, I'll let you talk here in just a second, but I mean, you, if you care at all about my opinion, you have nothing to apologize for. I heard that. Okay, but go ahead, Barry.
Do you think the industry is intentionally sexist? Like, with writers back in the day, they wrote about white male because that's what they were around. Do you think it's intentional, or it's just an oversight?
Are you asking me this question? Or
anybody.
Everybody?
Anybody. Well, you're a woman, so I mean,
well,
you probably have more insight than us. We have penises.
See, and I think that I think that's funny, and I would make that joke if we were at a table together, and I would probably be a horrible person for it. But I think it's like passively intentional. I don't think, like, by and large, men wake up in the morning and are like, I'm going to put down women today. I'm going to have this many men in my game and not this many women. And I'm going to use these pronouns versus those pronouns. I don't think they actively or like this is what I am doing today. I think it happens because just the way like you guys were talking earlier about you're raised a certain way and it becomes the norm and whatever, whether it's right or wrong. But that's where like the dialogue is important in a way that it can be constructive. And you can write the letters, you can write the emails, you can, if you're blatantly doing something racist, like using really horrible Japanese accents on your thing, call that shit out, because that's just not okay. But like, oh, I kind of think the cleavage was a little low on this card, like, that's an email. That's not a tweet, like, in my opinion, like, or I don't know. But is it intentional? I don't know. I can't believe that people are so horrible that they would purposely be like, there will only be one woman in my game. Ha ha ha, women. I can't believe that. And I don't, well, maybe I don't want to believe it. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know. But.
Anybody else?
Oh, I'll chime in on this. Does it happen? Yes, it does. It does. There is sexism in the hobby. And it's a horrible thing. There's sexism in the world. There's racism in the world. There's racism in the hobby. But what I think the big quote-unquote issue is when someone lumps everything they believe to be sexist or racist together. Okay? Because there's things that happen in games, ways they're set up. There's no female characters in the Grizzled because there were no female characters based in that game. So if they put a female character in the game, it's forced. And they're doing it to appease someone, and that's the only reason they're doing it. And it's the same thing as, I mean, I think I'm the oldest person in the group since Marty's not here tonight. I got to watch all of the TV shows where all of a sudden there was an African-American character out of nowhere that they forced into the show because we have to show diversity. And it didn't make any sense. When you force something like that, that's when you have a problem. If it's a natural thing, we're all geeks. There is a female captain of a Star Trek ship. Yes, makes sense. There's female captains female pilots. There's females who are CEOs of companies. That's a natural thing. If something is there and a female character does not fit, you cannot force one into the game. And that's where people go, oh, there's no females in this game. Why can't there be a female? Because it doesn't fit into the game. The same way if you're making a game about trading in the Mediterranean, you are not going to have a bunch of Asian characters in the game because Asians weren't trading in the Mediterranean at that time. And that's the thing where things like, and it drives me crazy because the argument anytime someone is against something is, back to me is, oh, you're a straight white male, you have no say in this. I'm like, and my response always is, well, I was born that way. I had no choice. I didn't choose to be born a straight white male. It doesn't mean I don't care about people. And I always laugh. I don't have any black friends. I don't have any gay friends. I don't have any female friends. I don't have any Asian friends because I have friends. I don't categorize them by the color of their skin or what's between their legs or anything like that. And for people who talk like that, it just drives me nuts. The only thing I categorize friends by is where I know them from. They're my gamer friends. They're my bowling friends. They're my bar friends. All right? And that's the kind of bullshit that we fucking deal with every day, and it drives me nuts because racism is real, sexism is real, but call it out when it's actually what it is and not just what you want to make it to be.
Excellent. Thank you. You made a very, very good point there. So thank you, Anthony. As eloquent as ever. Mm-hmm. I do think that's something, and I'm gonna catch heat for this, and that's fine. But I do think, how do I put this? I do think there are times when somebody says something that somebody is going to construe as being offensive when the intent was never that. And I think we weirdly allow people. I hate saying things like, "Oh, this touchy-feely world we live in right now." The vast majority of people are going to listen to somebody say something, and 99% of them aren't going to get anything negative out of it. They're not going to get anything offensive out of it. but we have to worry about that 1% in this world. Now, I don't know how to deal with that. I honestly don't. I don't know how to handle, that vocal 1%. I don't want to say, well, get over it. Because that's I mean, because if they have a problem with what you're saying, if they have an issue, I mean, you should listen to it. Listen to the complaint. Try to understand where they're coming from. Get a better understanding. I don't think that we should be dismissive to them, but at what point do you stop? At what point do you? I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird. I don't have the answers. I mean, I don't. And the thing is that, and like you mentioned, like people mention, the privilege of the white male, and the privilege that we have that we don't understand. And I agree with that. I agree that I have no inkling whatsoever what it is, how it feels to be a minority, or how it feels to be a woman. And there's no way I'll ever know. So, I mean, I do think there's some truth to that, and I do think there is some awareness that we have to have as, that the privileged class that we are. But I don't know where we have to stop apologizing, though, or when we do need to start apologizing, or if we do need to apologize. I don't know.
So, Anthony, I agree with a lot of what you said, and Lance, I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't know that it's about stopping as much as where can we start? Where can we start doing the things that need to be changed? Like I said, yeah, there's a lot of games that are white dudes on boxes everywhere. Got it, check. We can't do anything about that. Those are published. I think to expect everybody to go back and erase every box cover ever, or to go back and this card's already, this game's published, let's change it so that, I don't think that, are you going to pay for that? I don't think that that's reasonable. However, I think moving forward, hey, designers, like I said earlier, drive that change. Be like, you know what? I'm going to get some diversity up in here, and we're going to put everybody who's not a white dude more equitably into this game. Hey, publisher guys, you don't like these themes that are coming out? You think that's too, all right, this has been done. How many guys can we have like this? How many games can we do like this? You need to define that to move forward and be like, this is what we want to see, because this, needs to change. And that's I think using published games as a point of reference, like Joel did in his video about this game treats women like this game treats women like that, this one has them displayed this way. I think that's good for hey, maybe we do need to change this a little bit. But I think that it's more of a place to start than it is a where do we stop. And if people still want to make games about trading in the Mediterranean, fine, whatever, they can, because people are still going to want to play them, and that's what it is at the end of the day. But I think it's more about starting somewhere than stopping.
No, right. And if you're making a game about something that's a modern day game, a theme is modern theme, or it's placed in modern theme, or the publisher changes to a modern theme, yes. Modern theme. There are women, there are men, there are gay people, there are blacks, there are whites, there are yellows, there are greens, there are purples. There's all these diversities of things that in modern day that should be included into a game. You shouldn't exclude people and say, well, I'm going to exclude this. I don't want to put this in because I'm trying to sell to middle-aged white guy, and I don't want to put this Hispanic-looking gentleman in the game. Well, we don't care. We're not that stupid anymore. If they do that, that's their choice, and that's a stupid choice. But again, all the games can't be based in modern times or in the future where everyone could be purple and yellow and striped.
No, they can't. But even if it is a trading in the Mediterranean game, I mean, there couldn't be a woman captain. Really, is it based on history? Is it the end of the world if there's a woman captain? Honestly, am I going to notice because, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of cubes on a board? Probably not. But, I mean, does it hurt to have them in there? No. The people who it matters to can be happy, and the people who don't notice otherwise are going to continue to not notice otherwise. So what's the harm in including it like that, I guess, is my question.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm not saying it's a harm in including it. I'm just saying it kind of feels forced at that moment in time, and that's what my thing is. Is like when you force, things on people. People have whatever they believe in, and whether you agree with it or not. I will always quote my father and say, I don't have to agree with you, but I will defend your right to my death for you to be able to say it.
Sure.
And that's fine. When you force something upon someone, regardless of what it is, if it's something that feels forced, it does not feel right. And that's the problem I have with a lot of things is when you force it. I can't make you like something. Okay, my wife does not like gaming. Not because she's a woman. She just doesn't like gaming. We have friends who are female, who are gamers, who we know who their husbands don't like gaming. I can't force you to like playing games. I wish you would, but you don't. So fine. That's your thing. You don't want to like it, that's fine. I'm not going to force you to do it. I don't force my kids to play games. My kids like playing games. Not all kinds of games, but they like playing games. Forcing things upon people for no reason other than to try to make people happy, I don't know. I don't understand that. And just doing that in general. If you have a belief, have your belief. But don't force your belief on somebody else. This is what we've been talking about is with anything. Don't force me to think like you. In a lot of ways, we do. Everyone thinks alike, on certain things. But there's certain things we don't think alike. Regardless of what it is, it could be something so trivial as, broccoli. You can't make people eat broccoli. Broccoli's real. I love broccoli. But if you hate broccoli, I can't tell you. No, you have to eat broccoli because broccoli's good. You have to eat it.
But you know what? I could chop up those florets, whatever, put them in some cheesy rice, and you're going to eat the shit out of that broccoli because it's represented in a different way. So,
Travis, do you like broccoli?
Yeah.
Travis is here and he hadn't said anything yet. I just wanted to make him say something.
I'm still. You guys know me. I'm like a loaded gun, so I'm.
Well, I've been waiting for him to say something. Travis, just so you know, I don't know if you heard earlier. We're having what our open discussion is about, but we're not. We're going to avoid bringing up anybody by name as far as anything that happened before, and I should have mentioned that to Anthony as well. And I mean, and we have it. It's not because I'm trying to protect anybody. I don't want to turn into like a shaming or a name and shame type of thing.
Well,
so.
and I think that even if names were used, and I agree that let's just stay away from that. It's not shaming. It's their. I'm not saying that you're saying it would be shaming, but I mean it's these people's beliefs and it's things they think are important, and that's absolutely okay that they think they are important and want to draw attention to them.
I would even say to Anthony's point about don't make me believe what you believe. I do think is just them just stating this is how I feel. Is that them trying? I like what those people over there. No. I mean, if I told you didn't know me from Adam, and I came up and I was like, this Tigris in Euphrates, that's the shit. You need to play this game. It'd be kind of innocuous. And then is that me trying to tell you what to play? Is that me trying to tell you what to think?
No. See, because the thing is, me playing the game is one thing. Me thinking it's the shit because you told me it's the shit is something entirely different. All right, let me give you an example of just in gaming in general. Okay, let's take this case in point. Okay, so we're talking about inclusion in gaming. Okay, so if I like to play Glass Road, and you like to play Glass Road, and Rhiannon likes to play Glass Road, and we all sit down to play Glass Road, and we have a fourth seat. And the fourth person likes to play Glass Road. But none of us like what everything else that person stands for. And we're just sitting down to play a game. Do we exclude them because we don't agree with them?
Nope.
No, we're supposed to include them, correct?
Yep.
So everyone who the thing about that drives me crazy is there's people who will say, okay, I want, everyone should be included. You should respect everyone. Blah blah blah. If some particular people, let's say Donald Trump, came to their game day and wanted to sit down and play Glass Road with them, I am going to tell you right now, they would not invite Donald Trump to sit down and play Glass Road with them. Because everything that Donald Trump stands for is everything the opposite of what they stand for. But they're just sitting down to play a game. Let's be inclusive, right? We're supposed to include everybody. This is gaming. This is for everybody. And I will do that too. I don't care if I don't like you. There's people I play games with that I don't like personally. But if you can play the game and keep it to the game and not go on your tangent and start trying to wave whatever your other beliefs are in my face, then let's sit down and play a game. I'm not going to sit down and play a game. If I think you're the best person in the world, I'm not sitting down and playing Munchkin with you. I don't like that game. All right?
You'd love playing Munchkin with me.
We'll talk later. I'm saying we'll talk later. But that's the whole thing. You talk about this inclusion stuff, and then you'll turn around. And I know for a fact they would not let Donald Trump sit down at that table and play Glass Road with them.
Okay. Well, you guys have been in the hobby longer than I have. Do you see these issues that we're discussing now? Are they better now than they were 5 or 10 years ago? I mean, as far as the games themselves go.
I think there's more of an awareness about it, sure. I mean, like, I can speak from, this is something I basically had, like, going into this, two big things to talk about. But one of them is, when we had Heroes Wanted up the first time, we had this really crazy backer that had a problem with the gender bending in the game. And they sent me a message, and they're like, you're trying to push a transgender agenda onto gamers and young people, and you should be ashamed of yourself for that. And of course, I thought that was absolutely absurd. But then the guy publicly switched his platform to, there are an alarmingly low amount of women in this game, and he was actually right. And like, when Nick and I sat down and looked at all the artwork, I was like, holy shit, this game is just white dudes. Like, and now granted, I sent descriptions away, and I never specified race. So the artist, who, I don't know if they're Canadian, if that contributes to anything, but the artist just drew things that way. And it actually was kind of like a moment where I stopped and I was like, holy crap, like, I didn't even take this into account, that one, women were underrepresented, and two, other racial diversity was not really represented in the game. And so the good news was the project did so well that we ended up adding like 50 cards. So it was just like kibosh everything. We like scrapped some of the old art and paid for new art, and we tried to switch things so that there were more. So this ridiculous, weird platform that this individual had, he actually just posted something on BGG about this like a week ago or something, where he was like saying he didn't like the cards, and like there was a way to work to make everyone look gender neutral and whatnot. This guy's 2 years he's been on and on about this, but that ridiculous situation, what it was eye-opening, and I'm not saying that because we're in this like the emotional temperature of this conversation. For me personally, I was like, holy crap, that's something we've really got to, we got to keep an eye on. So in the next expansion, we made sure that we had a lot more females, and we made sure that we had definitely more racial diversity. In fact, like, one of the things of the last one was there was like, a representative of different pantheons. So we had like a Native American woman, and what's funny about that was I was afraid because we put a Native American character in the game that we would get shit for that. Like, that somebody would flip it on me and be like, oh yeah, look, it's a Native American, she's got war paint on, oh, her name is Arrow. Like, I was sitting there waiting just to get something, and people thought it was cool. We included an Indian an Indian like multi-armed deity too, and people thought that was cool. So it kind of worked out where, and I think people were a little more gracious to us the second time around because the people had liked the game and had been out there. I think if we were coming in cold, people would have maybe attacked us. On the Ninja Camp one, Sin, you guys know Sin, right? Sin did the voiceover, and he did like an Asian, like good morning campus, like a sort of ridiculous Asian accent, and we were like 50-50 split. This is going to be a nightmare, and like we made sure in the credits that it said voiceover, and we credit the voiceover person, and we made sure that we paused it like an extra 5 seconds so people could see that he was actually an Asian guy. And I said this to him whenever he recorded. I was like, I'm worried about this. He's like, why? I'm an Asian guy. Like this is in theme for the game. Like if you were in a martial arts movie or a ninja style movie, and it was your audience was an American audience, they wouldn't have like a British guy, an Asian guy with a British accent do it. They wouldn't have an Asian guy with like a South Carolina accent do it. He's like, you're just doing the theme of the game. But it was scary. Like, it was scary because, this shit is a minefield, man. It's a giant-ass minefield. And it's one thing to be a gamer. It's another thing that this is how you pay your bills, This is your livelihood. So you've got to take those things into consideration. And someone said to me when Heroes Wanted was up, was like, well, we want an all-girls pack. And I said, that to me is an overcorrection. It's like what Anthony was talking about. So now suddenly I've got to make an all-female pack to compensate, and then that feels like it's right. I mean, that's equally ridiculous. Why an awkward silence? That was my thing. I know I wasn't a
democratic. You stopped listening a while ago.
I know that wasn't the most articulate that I could have been, but at the same time, it's like that's a personal experience where this type of stuff regarding making games was in my own life. So
no, it makes sense, Trev. And the thing about it is when you, like I said, you went to the artist and said, okay, this is this character, this is this character. You didn't say, okay, this character is we envisioned them being, African American male. This one, you just told them what the characters were, what their abilities were, and they went. And so maybe their whole perspective of the hobby, because I don't remember who actually did the art, was, oh, it's a bunch of white guys who play these board games, so let's make them all white guys.
Well, we actually had another girl that got a hold of us, and she was like, hi, I'm a 20-something-year-old African American female, and your game looks really neat, and I was really hoping that there would be, like a strong African American female in the game. On the goddamn box cover, there's a black girl with she said, I wish there was like a strong black girl, maybe like a cool afro. There's literally a character like that on the box.
It's still in shrink, don't be mad.
It's fine. So one of the characters, and she was in there from the get-go. She was not added as a response to this. If anything, there are 7 characters in this team, and there's only one girl, and there's only one person with skin showing that isn't white. So, and my response was like, it's on the box, but like there was like an immediate assumption that her demographic wasn't represented. So. Right. I mean, I definitely want to do my best to try to include that, but I don't want to do it in such a way that it's forced. I don't want it to be like, all right, we have 20 cards, 5 will be black, 5 will be Asian, 5 will be Jewish lesbians in wheelchairs, and the other 5 will be tigers. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to divvy it up like that. That's because this is a big part of what I do for the company is I dream up all these cards and these ideas and things like that, and I still want it to be fun, but there should be boundaries, I think.
Okay, but I mean, here's the argument that I hear a lot in response to that as well. I have to make sure I have 5 of these and 5 of those and 5 of these and so on and so forth. Well, what's the harm in making people do that? Because I mean, it's the vast majority of people don't care either way. Why wouldn't you try to make it so it is as inoffensive as
Because you'll end up with 472 characters.
Well, I appreciate.
That's a fair
I appreciate
question.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I mean, it's just, I mean, that's my argument. I mean, I can, if somebody is like, oh, it's like you're racist because you didn't include, one of this minority and one of that minority, and they get in your face and say it. I mean, yeah, you can say you're ridiculous. I just, that you couldn't be more preposterous. You can say that, but the thing is that, I mean, maybe, there's some, even if it's preposterous, why not just bother? Why not just do it? Well, I mean, there's no reason, and I it's weird. It's like there's no reason not to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just like if you can convince people to, let it go and just say, oh, okay, thank you for being diverse, in this game, and showing the different races and what have you. Why wouldn't you just do it? Why would you want to have the argument? Why would you want to have the?
I mean, I think, okay, like let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we sat down and we had 50 cards and we said, let's make these be as equally distributed amongst races as possible. I do think that you will get into a splitting hairs type situation where it's like clearly, you had you had like 5 black characters. But you didn't have like a Kenyan character, or you didn't have a Filipino character. Like you had light-skinned Asian characters and not like a Filipino character. I mean, I'm telling you, in the world of Kickstarter, until you've done a Kickstarter, you cannot believe, you will not believe the shit that you get. And like. And some of these things are sticking points for people, and you've got these rabble-rousers that will just kick up dirt with the hopes of causing any trouble. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a fair point. If anything, in Heroes, one of the big thing that I've pushed to do is to make these be almost more traditional superheroes, so they have no skin showing. They're like Deadpool or something, where like they're in a full costume, so the player can impose their imagination onto that character as though they are that person. It's believable that you could be that person, or in the context of the game. Instead of saying that's weird, my guy's got like a white woman's body and like a black man's head, which is something that can happen in the game. And to an extent, I think that's something that's kind of neat about the game. That's something that's neat about the game, is that it doesn't bother trying to find a way to. Like the juxtaposition, no matter how jarring it is, that's just the way the game works.
Well, I think that, like, and I was thinking about this earlier, the nature of Kickstarter games is that they are kind of more fluid than, well, I'm probably hard-pressed to find a publisher that does it without Kickstarter. But, if I published it and it's done, boom, it's out already, as where Kickstarter, you can get that kind of feedback actively, like, hey, I think this, but then maybe that onus is on the designers or the publishers when they're playtesting, like if I'm not going to kickstart and I'm going to just fund this project, then I need to pay more attention to people when they bring up something, even if it's, like you said, a crazy guy with the gender bending and then valid point about the female representation. Like, it's about listening to the feedback. But I still, like, because that is an in-process thing and that is not a finished, completed, we need to go back and fix this situation. Like, I think that that's okay. Like, to be like, hey, you know what, I'm throwing money at this project so you can develop it, before it's ready, quote unquote. So how about we take a look at the female count of your game? Versus like, you've already published this, redo it all, I need women in it now. Like, I don't think that's.
Well, another thing that's interesting is, we'll put up like close to 20 backer levels where people back to be in the game,
sure.
And like every goddamn time, 18 of them will be white dudes.
Yeah.
So right there, and that money helps us considerably, and it's also something that's really fun and interactive for the people, the backers, to know that they can put themselves in the game. This last time we had, I believe, 4 or 5 females one of which was an African American gal, and that was awesome. But like even Scoundrel Society, we had 3 or 4 backer levels. Every single one of them was a white guy, except for one guy actually changed his mind and gave it to his girlfriend as a Valentine's Day present.
Oh.
So we try to make our projects have that element to it. Ninja Camp was a little different, obviously, because they're pets, and we only ended up having 1 backer level, so someone put their dog in the game. But whenever you can put a person in the game, and you can make that a fun experience for that person while helping to fund the game, I don't want to take away that opportunity from myself because of, and say, I have to divide it and say, 6 white backers can get this pledge level, and then the other ones, are racially diverse backers or something. I'm not trying to be facetious here. I'm just saying, there's no way for me to control over who's backing the game, right? Right. There's no way for me to police, nor should I police who is taking those backer levels. It's emblematic of the industry. It's emblematic of the gaming world. It really is.
Well, I would maybe like to steer away from this topic a little bit. Same topic, but not specifically the game part of it. Maybe it's the pain talking, but I feel like as a gamer person who, I'm not, oh, you guys do your stuff, but I think the place where I can make the most change is at the table and at events that I go to. And I know a lot of women who have unfortunately had really crappy experiences. I guess I'm lucky. I've not had that. I've never had anybody be rude or, rude, yes, but not specifically because I'm a woman. And I think that I think is where I personally would like to focus my efforts. I mean, I welcome anybody, even Donald Trump, to sit at my table, because it is, at the end of the day, about the games and about the people, and if we can't be good to the people around us. One thing that recently there was an article about, hey, what should I play with my wife or my girlfriend? I think things like that are not helpful. I think that kind of creates, I don't know about hostile, but what does that tell me about your girlfriend? Nothing. It doesn't tell me anything about your girlfriend. You guys, I guess, are in some kind of romantic relationship because she's your girlfriend, but what does that mean about her games that she likes to play? So my next question would be, what types of games do they like to play? Or what other kind of interests might they have? And I think sometimes maybe even that could be seen, because I think, first I think there's largely the wife game, oh, it's a wife game, so it must be like 6M, which of course I love, but not all women would just like filler games, but I think the default is that it's got to be a party game if a woman wants to play it, and I think that's kind of bullshit because I like heavy Euro games and I happen to be a woman, just like there were men who like party games over heavy Euro games, or crazy stupid Ameritrash games, but I think that there is an instance where you could actively choose to be more specific in your language in a way that would make people feel less uncomfortable, I think. Hey, I'm going to play a game with my friend Lance. He likes miniatures and plastic and dice. What types of games might we think about playing? Versus so this is my friend. What should I play with them? I have no freaking idea. I know nothing about this person.
That's the same as people who go on and say, I have a $100 gift certificate. What should I get?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
I have no freaking clue. I think the problem with people is they turn around and say, oh, what can I play with my wife? Okay, well, you know what? But start with, my wife is not a gamer, but I'd like to play something with her. What do you think is an easy entry game that she might like? Because you could take wife out of that sentence and put anything else into it. My grandmother is not a gamer.
Right. The
My
inclusion of
grandfather,
wife
my
isn't the
uncle.
issue. Like, just what should I play with my wife?
But that's
What
the whole
do you-
thing. They don't. And the other thing with people who ask those kind of questions is people who give answers to questions when someone asks for a recommendation for a game, whether it's a situation or not, is read the damn freaking question. They say, my wife, my girlfriend, my uncle, my cousin, my brother like Scrabble and Words with Friends. Is there a board game that you think that they would like? And someone will go, Viticulture with Tuscany.
I work in a shop, and I get this a lot. And I've noticed lately, like in the last year, that we have a lot of people coming in that are guys trying to get their wife or girlfriend or their wife and their kids or something into gaming. But I always kind of, I don't know, it's funny because I was actually talking to somebody about last night on the phone, and they do phrase the question, I want to get a game to play with my wife, and my first question is always, well, what kind of games they like. I've just never thought to like walk over to Smash Up My Pretty Pretty and say, here you go. Like it's weird, and most of the time when people are saying this, they are saying what Anthony, basically it's paraphrasing of what Anthony's saying. They're like, I'm in a relationship with someone who isn't an active gamer, or either I want to get more involved in gaming and I would like my partner to play games with me. What do you recommend? But I still try to feel out, like I'll say, what kind of games do they play? Like, well, they don't really game. Well, it's like, well, what kind of, like, do you like Scrabble, or, like, do you guys play like euchre or hearts or something? Like, what's a kind of game that you like? So for me, that's a little, I can understand why that rubs people the wrong way, but I guess I never really thought about it because I feel like I was answering the question the appropriate way from the get-go.
Well, just there's so many, like, wife game, I want to just stab everybody who says that, because it's like, it is definitely implied that it's a party game, that it's some light, silly game that she can handle because she's just my wife. And it's not just, like, speculating. That's, like, I've had conversations with people that's like, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Like, I don't want anything too hard because, she's my wife. And I think that's, oh, well, she's used to that, if that's the case. And then also, that's bullshit. I'm sure she can play whatever she wants. But I just think that's like an easy thing. And when you ask these follow-up questions, if, say, I am in, like, a game store and I'm there and Travis, I'm like, hey, what about this? And you're asking me follow-up questions. Do you ever have the experience where people feel that that's condescending when you're trying to ask follow-up questions about what I might like?
I don't think so, because they're already sort of deferring to your judgment by asking. So I don't know. I mean, the one thing that I'm pretty terrible at working in this shop. I only work there like a couple days a month, and like I suck at using their like weird, like they have like a computer that is basically
like a flow chart that you're like.
Well, I'm just good at interacting with
right.
customers.
Yeah.
And I'm good at getting them to buy stuff. Like, that's just what I'm good at. So I don't really have that experience where someone has been offended by it. I mean, like, that's the thing, right? Like, you gotta, and that's kind of like, last week what I was trying to say, and I went off on a tangent when Barry misunderstood, thought I was being a D-bag. My point is, like, no, I'm not trying to go back to that. I'm just trying to say, like, this is an opportunity. It's the same thing where, like, when a person is asking for a game, like, I don't care if they've never played a game and the first game I've sold them is Settlers Catan, or if they want to come in and they're, like, looking to play Dominant Species or some shit. I got to find out what kind of game they like and start just sort of making suggestions until we hit something, right? So I've sold 1 million copies of friggin' Pandemic and Ticket to Ride. I could never play Pandemic again in my life, and I would be happy. But people like it, and it's a fun experience for people who've never played anything like that. So I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic here.
No, I was just wondering because I feel like I ask people follow-up questions all the time, and like when I demo games or if I'm teaching them to people, my question will be like, so what do you know about this game? And I don't mean that to be condescending, Like, I'm just trying to get a feel so that I know, can I, like, abbreviate this teach because you've played other, like, area control games and you get kind of generally how that mechanic works? Or do I need to draw this out because you are a new gamer and you don't know anything about area control?
Maybe the best way to phrase it is, what's your favorite game? You know? Like, what's your favorite game? Because then, like, you're trying to get common ground with them.
Well, if I'm specifically demoing a game, like when I demoed Panamax or Istanbul last year, like I was always like, so what do you know about this game? Just so I could gauge, like, you know, like, so this is pick up and deliver. Do you know what that means? And if they're like, no, I'm like, okay, so it means you move fast to there.
I mean, you found that people were getting irritated with you? I mean, because, like, they're coming to be taught. That seems really odd to me that a person...
Right, no, I was just wondering if maybe somehow that can be, like, condescending, asking those types of questions. Like, I don't know. I don't see it that way, but I can maybe see how, like, because I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to help you understand this better, maybe someone could perceive that in a way that is not how it is intended.
I mean,
Is that how you worded it?
In the most rude, offensive way possible, Barry.
No, I'm saying is.
No, it'd be like, so this is, you know, this is Istanbul. It is a pick up and deliver game. Do you know what that means? What do you know about this game? It won the Kennerspiel. Like, do you know that's a big deal? Do you know what that is? Like, and just to gauge, and some of it's just conversational, like just to see where they're at. And, you know, like Panamax is a big game. If I know that they know kind of about pick up and deliver stuff, that makes it a little easier to, like, you know, action point allowance. It makes it just a little easier to teach it. To be like, oh, well, this is kind of like this other game, just so I'm able to relate it. It's not that I don't think you're smart enough or that I don't think you know games. It's just I'm trying to make this a better experience for you, and to do that, I need to ask probing questions about games usually.
I don't think that'd be condescending. Like, doing the channel, I learned people take things very literal. You know, so it is, you know, if you say something a certain way, which you don't mean to be mean or condescending or anything, they take it that way. Last week, in case, yeah. But yeah, I don't think that came off condescending.
I was just wondering if, you know, those kinds of questions were ever seen as condescending.
I mean, I might be the wrong person to ask for that too, because I spend hundreds of hours a year in a booth trying to get people to buy stuff. So, like, I have learned, like, as soon as a person walks up and, like, I start making eye contact with them, I start figuring out, okay, I don't have to do a lot. This person is not really that interested, so I'm just going to give them a real quick pitch. Or if they walk up and they've got a smile and they seem engaged, then I go, I can talk to this person for 5 minutes, and that's what's going to make them walk away with a game in their hand. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know how to turn off my abrasive nature at the right times, but unfortunately,
say what? When does this ever happen?
It's usually. Well, like, when all this stuff happened yesterday, I wrote a tweet, and I said, my tweet was, it's times like this that I'm glad I'm just a racist. And then I erased it immediately because I was like, oh my God, I will wake up tomorrow and, like, our next project will get one backer. So I just let
and now you've admitted to tweeting and deleting it, so you're closeted. Oh God.
I mean, it just, my way of coping is always to just make jest. It's just it's how I cope. I've got, like, a pretty, I mean, this is just going to sound like I'm trying to make it out like I am acclimating to the conversation or whatever, but my family is almost all women. Like, it's really, like, I'm an only son, my dad's an only son, my mom has one brother. Like, my family, when I go home to Florida, it's 44 people, and I'm not kidding, there's 7 guys in that 44 people. There's, like, it's all women. I've got 4 sisters. My mom she's got 2 other sisters. So my dad has 2 sisters. He's an only son. My grandpa's an only son. My grandpa on the other side had a twin brother, but he died when he was very young. So I didn't really grow up around a lot of guys. I honestly relate more to women than men because my dad just worked all the time. So I just hung out with my mom and my sisters, and I'm like this giant disappointment to my father, as I'm sure you guys known from being on this show, because, I didn't play sports. I like to read, and I remember once when I was a kid, I could buy any toy I wanted, and I bought a Cabbage Patch doll, and my dad lost his mind, like literally lost. He's like, God damn it, and like threw it in the garbage. He's like, no son of mine's playing with this shit. So, and further, and this is going to sound even more ridiculous, So I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, right? So in the South, not a lot of fun. My mom is the only one of her siblings to marry a white person. So all my aunts and uncles on my mom's side are black. So my cousins are half black. So like I would go to school and like I would hear things like you're going to go to hell because your uncle is black and you don't believe in Jesus. So I kind of grew up being, even though I'm a white guy and I was poor and I was in gifted class, so I was the poor white kid that didn't believe in God who had black family in like a swamp in Florida. So not a lot of fun. My wife is Israeli. Like I just don't really see. I don't perceive the world that way. Like I don't see race and things like that, but I make fun of it. If there was a guy on the show that had both of his legs blown off, I would find a way to irritate him by making the topic about his legs being blown off. That's just because that's just what I do. I like to poke and prod and cross boundaries and whatnot. But in my heart of hearts, like I don't perceive things that way. And that's why, to kind of come full circle to my first tirade, it surprised me that I allowed my game to be so two-dimensional racially and gender-wise. I was very surprised that just kind of slipped by, because I feel like I'm a pretty open-minded guy. I mean, Anthony, you live in New York. Like, I lived in New York for almost a decade. I mean, you're talking rubbing up against each other hard in New York. It's not like other places. Like I live in Indiana right now. It's 90% white here. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's almost all white people. So, I mean, that's something I loved about New York. I thought that was something that was interesting. Every time I got in a cab, and if the guy wasn't from America, I asked him 1,000 questions. But, what are you going to do?
No, do you guys see this, the sexist and the racist stuff in the cons, out in the public in general, or is this just, the upper echelon voicing their opinion on social networkings?
I'm super lucky. Again, like I've not had a negative experience. Like I'm not harassed. I'm not made fun of. I don't know. I've like, maybe just because I'm an asshole too. I don't know. But like, I
feel like I harass you a lot, Rhiannon.
Do what?
I feel like
yes, fine, yes, correct. Okay, yes. But not because like I'm a woman, like I've not had any kind of negative experience. I mean, the worst that happens to me is that when guys explain, like in my normal group, explain rules, a couple of them will check in more with me. They'll be like, so this is Panamax, and there's dice, and they're cargo, and you're going to move the cargo on the ships through the canal, and then you're going to, get a card from over here, a contract. A contract is what you use to get, and like, so they'll check in more with me, and maybe it's because they think I don't understand, and usually it's at that point where I'm like, I've played games, I get it, like, and make fun of them because that's just how I roll. But like I've not like I don't have people making me feel less at a game table. Like I don't know. Social media is the place I feel worse about myself. But like in a convention, buried to your point, like I've never had any kind of like untoward thing happen or whatever. So I don't know. And I'm lucky, and I feel really bad that some women have to, or apparently every other woman has these experiences, like that men can't handle them or whatever, being respectful people, but that's just not been my experience, so I can't speak to it. And like what I was saying earlier, as that makes me feel guilty to an extent because that's not my experience, and so then somehow I feel like I'm less of being good of a woman, of a gamer, because I don't have these experiences. I don't have people catcalling me or commenting on my attire or my hair or my bag that I'm carrying, or assuming I'm some kind of idiot. Like it's just not my experience. And so I'm like, well, do I even know what the hell I'm talking about? Yes, I do, because it's the experience that I know to be true. So that's not less than anybody else's experience.
Here's the weird thing though, and I'm once again buying myself some time, because this is kind of a difficult situation. So it has been my experience, and I'm not speaking specifically about this situation. I work with people that, like they shuffle about within the company through to different groups. It's like I work for a company that employs, 1,000 people in the building that I work in alone. I mean, it's a multinational corporation. And so I worked with people that moved from like one job or one role to another, and they bounced around a lot. And they would always say, "Oh yeah, my boss and I, we don't get along." And and after like the fourth or fifth time, you eventually got to a point where you're like, maybe it's not your boss. And it's just like, what I'm getting at here is that I'm not denying that there are people that want to be part of the board game hobby, that want to be part of the scene, if you will. But maybe they don't have the ability to tolerate the feeling of the fact that they are being looked down upon or whatever, or they're more sensitive to it than other people. I'm not saying that it isn't happening. I'm not saying that well, they need to learn to live with it. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, it goes back to this weird situation that I have where it's like, well, let me perfect example. Months ago now. And this is like maybe even almost a year ago now. My local game store, first Saturday of every month is open gaming day, and from noon until close, and they'll stay open as long as people want to be there and game. They will pay to have a person sitting there and working. The only thing is that because North Dakota is a weird blue law state, after midnight they can't sell anything. So people tend to lose because it's Sunday, so you can't sell anything until you can't technically be open and open for business until noon. But anyway, regardless, so it tends to thin out pretty quickly. They say if you want to buy anything, and that includes drinks or snacks or anything, you need to buy it by midnight. So whatever. Anyway, there was the third or fourth month of this, and it's wildly successful. They have 20% off everything in the store on that day. It's a great support for the gaming community. A group of women, and they've been there before. A group of women were in there, and I kind of looked over, because I couldn't believe what I saw actually. And they were in there, and they were having their bachelorette party at open gaming night. And okay, so fine, they were wearing the risque outfits, they were drinking out of the penis straws, they were going full on bachelorette party, and all the guys saw them doing it. And the thing is, there's a pretty good female contingent. I mean, it isn't obviously 50-50, but it's a good 25 to 35%, and which I found is more than I usually encounter as far as most of the gaming communities that I go to. But nobody was approaching them. Nobody was saying anything. Nobody was doing if they had gone to a bar, dang well, and that they have guys being all machismo and just oh hey, well, what's going on, ladies? No, these girls were just sitting there playing the game, and nobody said anything to me, and I was really impressed by it. It was like I'll never see this again. It was like I got to make sure that I think I sent a tweet out about it or whatever. But I was like, and that group of girls, or women, I should say, I don't think they'd ever, if somebody ever was disrespectful to them, because they were a female and they were board gaming or whatever, they'd be the first ones just to probably tell whatever idiot who would say something like that to shut his goddamn mouth. I mean, just because they were completely comfortable and completely in their element, and they had no issue. And I've seen them there since. I don't think, and like you say, Rhiannon, you say you've never experienced it. I do think, and this is unfortunate, I do think a-holes sense lack of confidence. They sense people that can't stick up for themselves. and they will make those comments, and they will make those derogatory things. But also, I think confidence also gives people a little bit of armor towards something that might be offensive to somebody that can feel it more. I mean, and of course, I've stepped into the landmine here and saying, "Oh, you're saying that the girls that have no confidence." No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there is a certain amount of tolerance that people have and that don't. And tolerance is kind of a neat word too, because tolerance is like saying we know it sucks, but we'll tolerate it. And so maybe it isn't something that should be tolerated. I don't know. It's such a shitty thing. Though everything about it is just crummy. I mean, I personally, and I think I can speak for everybody here, believe that everything should be equal. But it weirdly isn't. And I don't know. It's how do you fix it? How do you change it? On a micro level, you can fix yourself. But how do you fix it in a grander scheme?
I think you have to start with yourself. I mean, I am who I can control. If I, don't like the way certain people might be treated, I'm not going to treat people that way. If I don't like a game, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to suggest it to other people because of whatever reason I have. I'm not going to use language with people that might find that offensive. Like, there's some groups where it's all dick jokes, and that's fine. But there are other groups that there's no way in the world I would even think of saying penis. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, and I think as you start with yourself, and if everybody else is responsible for being a decent human being, I think that spreads. Like, and again, maybe that's super naive of me that I want to just believe that I can be good and other people will be good too. But I think, you gravitate towards what you know and like, and if you like the goodness will find you. And again, that's stupid and lame and whatever, but like that's what I believe. I don't know. Yeah.
No. I do.
That woman.
We need a crickets button. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I don't know. It's such a weird.
I mean, here I'll throw something out there. So this was whenever I think about feminism in particular. So my grandmother is like my mom. I lived with my grandma. Like my parent, I kind of, left my parents and I live with my grandma. So my grandmother was essentially formerly an abused housewife who had 4 children. She worked in a bank at essentially like a reception type job. So she moved to Florida in the early 80s, and she got a job working at Cypress Gardens. So like Anheuser-Busch Gardens, like their crappiest, like come see our flowers and ride on no rides and be bored. So she was just a receptionist. A year later, she was the director of public relations. And a year after that, she was a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. So she had no college education. So she had no college education whatsoever. She was a high school graduate, had never had any sort of job. She was totally, by all intents and purposes, in a time when the glass ceiling was very low, should have had zero mobility to move up the way that she did. And so whenever my grandmother gets very annoyed when people talk about feminism, and her quote, which I think is a very, very interesting quote, is a cool quote, is, "I never got anywhere by being a strong woman. I got everywhere by being a strong person." And her point was she never asked anyone to acknowledge that she was a woman. She just wanted to be acknowledged in her field as being good at her job. And that's why she managed to do all the awesome things that she did. She's 75 and she still travels and is a corporate negotiator. It's crazy, and I mean, if you look back into the first part of her life, she was, pretty put upon, and I think that's like powerful stuff, man. And I mean, from a person who experienced something, her own husband being that way to her, toward living in a time where there was absolutely a division and an expectation of a woman to do a hell of a lot less than what the expectation of women in some cultures are, at least the culture she lives in, is different. So I don't know. I think that's to me, I always think of that. I'm not saying that I, am anti anything. I really respect my grandmother, and in a lot of ways, my grandmother is like my parental role model, my familial role model. She's who I look up to. She's who I call when I have anything wrong or I need to talk, and I listen. So.
But I mean, you have to understand that. I mean, she is. That's obviously the exception. I mean that
100%. 100%. I understand that she's in an absolute, no pun intended, minority, but at the same time, like I feel like she had that perception of herself and how to carry herself in those situations, and it worked for her. So. And I think, she also feels that way too because we have, her children, 3 of her 4 children, married people of other races, and that also was not exactly, the most popular thing at that time. So she's not a big fan of, I would like to point out my differences to you so that you can treat me the same. Like that's something that irritates her. And it's obviously comes from her own life experience, which is probably unusual compared to some people's lives. But I still think that there's something kind of awesome in that perception that she has. Maybe you guys disagree.
Your grandma sounds awesome, Travis.
Thanks. She is very cool. If you think Lance hurts my feelings, you should meet her.
Well, so what happened to you? I mean, you're kind of the same DNA, so I mean, what's your issue?
I don't know. One time my grandma in front of my best friend said, Travis, you're one of the best people I've ever met in my life. But my God, you're a fucking asshole. It's really brutal, man. She's brutal. She's tough though. She's a tough lady.
I think this conversation, I've enjoyed it a great deal, but it's. I was going to touch on this, and I just thought of it again. Rhiannon mentioned echo chambers earlier, and the weird thing is that this group right here is kind of an echo chamber of itself, and it's like it's a weird echo chamber of like moderation. I mean, it's like I think we all feel very strongly that like people shouldn't be a-holes, but I also think that we're kind of riding a weird, path in the middle where we're also trying to say that the people that are the most vocal about trying to prevent, trying to get more equality in gaming, more diversity, we're also the ones that are trying to like rein them in a little bit as well. I don't know. It's a there's like the old thing. It's like you have to choose a side, but I mean, there really isn't a side for the way that I feel. I mean, it's just like, and in a way, I wish I felt stronger. I mean, about it, but I think I feel really strong about what I feel. But what I feel is just kind of milk toasty,
I think going back to what I said before, it's when when these real things are happening in the hobby or in the world and everything, you focus on them, you bring attention to them. But when you bring attention to this same problem when it's not as much of a problem, you kind of dilute it. And what you kind of do is you kind of turn people off to it. They're like, oh, yeah, there's so-and-so spouting off about how it's not fair. Like, yes, you know what? You just totally diluted the whole thing. This is a problem. This particular thing here is an issue. These other 5 examples you're giving for it are not the same thing. So you can't. It's like when your kids, something happens with one of my kids and they get in trouble, and the first thing to do is tell me about everything else the other ones did. Oh, but she did this and she didn't get it. No, that's not the situation here. It's a different situation. Let's deal with this issue because this is the issue. Let's not say, well, this is the same thing because it's not the same thing. And that's where I think you start getting people who just tune it all out. They too care, but at some point it's everyone's complaining, and you don't want to hear it anymore. So you shut everything out. Rather than trying to work on a problem, you just shut it all out.
I mean, I have no problem addressing someone's behavior at all. I mean, am admittedly a little timid in this conversation just because saying the wrong thing and it being taken and transmuted into some sort of platform to which I do not espouse is like a scary thing, and like I do that out of like, you know, I'm being a little cautious out of respect for my partner too, because this affects him professionally if I were to come on here and just start being really insensitive and making jokes or whatever. I grew up playing in punk bands. I was in a hardcore band, like, for whatever that means to anyone, you know, a band where people screamed and you played for 5 people in a basement. And I mean, I did that stuff. I did Food Not Bombs. I did Habitat for Humanity. I was a vegetarian until I was in my early 30s. From the time I was 15 until my early 30s, I was pretty much in a very politically charged environment most of my early adult life. That's part of why I think I have a sense of humor about it, just because I'm constantly was around that type of stuff where, like, you'd go to play a show and a guy would talk for 25 minutes before he started screaming into the microphone about some, you know, generic everyday problem, and then, like, he would leave and, like, hit his automatic unlock on his BMW and drive home to the suburbs. So, and that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the ability to, you know, a person that's in that doesn't have the ability to have a perception or an opinion about something because they are privileged or whatever, but there is a inherent a bit of irony to that, I find. So I don't know, man. Like, these types of things, like, I have no problem, like, debating or discussing, but when it comes to some of these things, and especially the type of stuff that I saw yesterday, it's just like, it's a black hole. Like, I mean, there were some people that got involved in that crap. You know, I know we're not naming names here, and I was really surprised. There was some friendly fire, some collateral damage type stuff going on, and I ended up having 2 people that I don't talk to very often on the phone ended up getting a hold of me and talk to me about it, which surprised me, because I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this shit. Like, no way, no how. I'm not saying anything. I'm not interested. It's a minefield. No thanks.
It is a minefield.
Oh, it's when you go on anything like when you go on anything like this, you know, somebody's going to throw it the wrong way. You know, whether it's YouTube or podcast or whatever, it's something that we expose ourselves to by doing it. Yeah, I mean, just got to be honest with yourself and others. Yeah.
Sure,
but I understand you're trying to avoid certain things because of your livelihood, but still.
Well, it's more than my livelihood. I mean, it's like, this is my whole life, you know. I'm all in on gaming, like in every way possible. So the last thing I need is for someone to take something I'm saying or whatever and turn it into, like, a reason to dislike me or my company.
Well, I have noticed that, like, I mean, when I started actually doing the video stuff and doing the things, it's just like I'm being a more vocal in, like, the online Board Game Geek forums and stuff like that, and, like, you know, I prevent myself from saying things just because of the fact that it's just it's tough, you know. It's tough to, like, you worry a little bit about, you know, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just like, you don't want to stir the pot, you know, because it's anonymity, and I think that's what the problem is. A lot of things is that the internet, whenever it's fairly anonymous. It's fairly, you know, no repercussions whatsoever. I mean, it's like the old saying. It's like, if people said the things in person that, you know, that they say on the internet, a lot of people will be picking their teeth off the floor, you know, just because, you know, there's like a repercussion for saying it. And I don't know. The weird thing is that, okay, so it's like you have a situation where, yes, we all agree that unfortunately there are assholes out there that will treat treat women. They'll treat minorities like because they're pricks, they're a-holes. They will treat them like lesser human beings, and that's absolutely horrible and awful that they do that. And they need to be called out on their bullshit, and they need to be stopped, and they need to be people need to take a stand against that. And I fully agree with that. But when you have somebody that calls out somebody calls out something that, in your opinion, isn't that drastic. It isn't somebody calling women whores or sluts or something, and there's something that you can actionable and you can say, wow, that's awful. And if it's lower on the scale, and then you look at it and you're saying, okay, I understand why you're upset, but is this really that big of a deal? And you have this weird feeling where it's like, if you actually if you vocalize that, all of a sudden then you're part of the problem. And I think that speaks to what Anthony said earlier. That's when you just say, screw it, I'm just not going to talk anymore. I'm not going to say anything anymore. I don't care. I don't want to be a part of it. Rhiannon wants to say something.
I have that thought almost every single day on Twitter. To be honest, I'm like, fuck it. I don't care if that's the way they want to take this. If that's the way they're telling me this needs to go for it all to be good and okay. Fuck it, I'm out. Whatever. But then the other part of me is I shouldn't be less. My voice should not be less. I should not matter less because I don't have the same experiences, because I don't echo everything they're saying, and so I stay. And I mean, earlier I got more emotional than I'm used to in general, and certainly on the internet, about the whole thing. And that's, to me, what staying, I guess, is. It's to be yeah, there are important things to discuss, and yeah, there are important things that need to be done, but there are ways to do them in a way that doesn't push people away from this hobby, that don't push people out of the thing that they need in their life, and for whatever reason that might be. And so I stay, and whatever. I don't know. I don't know if that helps anything at all, to be honest, but I just feel like it's a different voice than what's there, and sometimes that's all it takes for people to be like, oh, all right, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So say you are a very emotional person about something, and you get very upset about something on Twitter, and you express that the emotional thing. If you are constantly getting that emotional and telling people what to do and getting so irate and all of that, aren't you kind of telling people not to game with you? Because if something, even if it's something important, and again, important to other people, to everyone is different.
Right.
But if something is very trivial and you turn it into a bigger thing than it is, and again, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, isn't it kind of sitting there going, well, that's the kind of person this person is maybe they fly off the handle real easily. I don't want to play a game with a person who flies off the handle easily. And whether it's about whatever, it doesn't have to be, even stuff about sexism or racism or homophobia or anything like that. Just if that's your nature, I've been to game days at places and seen people playing at tables 3-4 tables away, and I see them reacting to the game and the way they're acting, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, if that person better not sit at any game that I'm signed up for to be playing, because I will get up and leave the table, because I don't want to play with that kind of person. So it's like, okay, it's not the fact that you feel strong about this thing, but just the way you are handling it sometimes. My father used to always say, even when you're right, you make yourself wrong just by the way you approach it. So, you're not, and then you're going to turn around and say, oh, it's because, of this reason or that reason why these people are excluding me. No, it's because you're a loose cannon.
Well, I just don't know that I appreciate it, but I recognize the irony of we all need to be inclusive, but I don't want these people around, so I'm going to block them out. And I think that is, again, why I stay, and I'm not like, deuces, I'm off of Twitter, I'm going back to my little ornery Salem, Massachusetts game group, and screw you all. We're going to be highly inappropriate at that table and whatever. You guys have nothing to say about it. Like, I don't know.
You know, the other thing about being inappropriate, and you guys talked about it earlier before I came on, I was actually watching you guys, is your comfortable level with the people you are friends with. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but Rhiannon and I have a level of comfort as far as being friends go, that we address each other a certain way, and we think it's funny, but that's between us. I wouldn't do it with people around who don't know us, and it's usually done very off the cuff on the side, but yeah, but I would never like do it like to embarrass her, or I wouldn't say it to any other person. It's just something that we just do. It's funny to us. That's how we address each other, and it's a weird thing, and you have to look at those things. It's like, oh, they would go run to Rhiannon and say, "I can't believe you let him talk to you like that."
Rhiannon and I do that in public.
Yeah.
Rhiannon, I've actually had people say, "Holy shit, man! Why you need to leave Rhiannon alone? She clearly hates you." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? We just are mean to each other.
Yeah.
It's a game. It's a game we play." I've actually been kicked out of a gaming group before in New York. The first gaming group I joined a lesbian, gay, bi, trans group, but it was funny because when I first saw the acronym or whatever, I was like, oh, it's like the Long Island something. Like, I just didn't even really look at it, like the title, and I just joined it, and when I showed up, I sat down, I played a game, people were talking, and then I said my girlfriend, and then someone's like, wait, you're straight? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, you can't be in this group. This is not for people like you. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, this is for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, or whatever. And I was asked to leave, and they deleted me from the group. No joke. That happened in New York City.
Womp womp.
I think some of this is...
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think some of this is part of the point that was, I think, trying to be made yesterday on Twitter and, just kind of prevailing, is that we can be inappropriate. Anthony and I can, flick each other off every time we see each other, and Travis and I can just, totally berate each other at the booth, and that's fine, because that's the safe place that we created for ourselves. And I think that the argument or the desire is to be able to have a safe space for women in general in the gaming industry. And obviously that's a tall order to say that, we need to do this, like, now. Yeah, we do. But again, I think that it all starts at the individual level, and there are ways to enact, incite, whatever kind of change that needs to happen.
But I mean, don't you think that that really, like, that statement is saying, like, let's peel back the skin on everything that is ugly about humanity, that has always been ugly
well, my thing
humanity.
is always just be a decent human fucking being. Like, don't, why do you got to be nasty to people? Why do you, like, just don't do it? Like, that's my thing.
Okay.
But
well,
like,
let me ask you a question. And this might be easy for you to answer. Do you think the people that when somebody complains about a perceived sexism that you don't see, do you still think that person's being a decent human being?
When they complain about a perceived sexism?
Yeah, like you stated that people like you prevent yourself on Twitter from saying, what the fuck's the big deal? Or just to use a non-eloquent way of saying it.
I stopped myself.
Or do you think of people as just stirring the pot to stir the pot? Or I mean, or I don't know. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. And if you don't feel comfortable answering the question,
no, I'm
don't
fine.
answer.
I think that they have a valid concern. I mean, yes, it would be nice if they are, you know, if like I'm being told, the majority of women everywhere are being treated in a way that makes them feel not welcome and safe in the gaming industry, which again is not at all been my experience. Then yeah, something needs to be changed, because if there's a whole group of women, like, and I don't think it's just women, it just happens to be the people that were being discussed yesterday. Then there needs to be a change. But how do we enact that change? I have no idea. I happen to like not not really care about dealing with things the way that they do. Like, I would rather give you shit right back when you give me shit about like being a woman, like, or whatever. Like, I would rather joke back with you. That's how I do it. I want you to change your perspective of women, not because I said you need to do it, but because I sat here and was just a big a dick to you as you just were to me, and you could see, for whatever reason you might not have seen it before, that women aren't just all these delicate little flowers, that like I can be just as nitty gritty as you can be, that I, like, you know, have a sense of humor beyond let's go bake my cupcakes, which I also love to do, by the way. Um, like that's how I deal with what I see as perceived imbalance. I just react in a way that is not expected, and it's not that I'm like faking it because I'm just crude and whatever and inappropriate all the time. That's just how I am. Like, Travis had all girls, I was raised around all boys. That's just what it is. And I've had this conversation with other people about that. That's how I deal with it, that I don't need to have a conversation and let a man know that he's inappropriate and be like, hey, you know what, that is really inappropriate and I don't think you should be talking that way. I mean, sometimes I've had that matter of fact, like, no, with people, but not like in the gaming industry world, whatever. But I'm going to be sassy and snarky, and that's just how I'm going to deal with it. That's how I'm going to balance that out. I've, like I said earlier, like, I have been made to feel like less of whatever, a woman, less of a person. Like, that's not how I should be doing it. That is not conducive to whatever kind of change needs to happen. And I disagree 100%. 100%. However I feel I need to be in a space to make it equal and comfortable for me is how I'm going to be it, like, and how I'm going to do it. Be it. You like that? I don't like this notion that it has to be XYZ, because emotions and people and relationships are fluid, and you can't just cookie cutter it and be like, this is how it has to be for it to be good and right, because good and right is different for everybody. And so I struggle with that myself, and I try to hear and let be said a lot of what other people say, because it's how they need to process and deal and feel like they are getting where they need things to be. But I don't know. I don't ever want them to feel like they're not handling it the correct way, because there is no correct way. But I hate that I am made to feel like I am not okay, because I don't deal with it the way that I'm being told to be dealt with things.
Yeah, that's I was getting with the victim complex thing earlier. Exactly.
Well, I don't know that
I just didn't know how to
victim.
express it.
I
see it in a lot, and I see, like Lance was saying, certain people do stir the pot often. You know, like they'll bring up a subject, and then a month later it'll pop up again, and then again and again.
It isn't even a month. It's like the same people, you know, week in, week out. And I understand they have a cause, they have a feeling, they perceive an issue, and more power to them. They believe in it, they are passionate about it, and they want their rhetoric, or I shouldn't say rhetoric, they want their I don't want to say agenda either. They want their mission, they want their ideal, they want their goal to be heard and to be listened to, and they want their voice to carry, and I get it, and you know, I feel strongly about other things, like, you know, that have nothing to do with that as well, that I would want my feelings to be heard. I just don't happen to feel as strongly as you do about this. I think the problem is that board gaming for me is my escape. It's my
Right.
it's what I do. It as my wife told me, she's like, that's board gaming is like your life. She said. I was like, well, no. I mean, I said my life is you guys. I was like, yes, but you play board games with us, And I mean, you now. She's like, you're going to go to 6 conventions this year. You are going to you are in your video room nearly every night, and she's just like, this is what you are. I mean, this isn't a hobby anymore, and I was really, and so when I have somebody, you guys make fun of me, like Anthony makes fun of me for not knowing anything of what's going on, and it's because I don't want to know. I don't want to be on Twitter all day, banging my head against the wall, trying to like mitigate, some comments and trying to like figure out and delve deep into what people think, and I don't know. I mean, it's just it bothers me. It bothers me that like this thing that I love has this kind of like this scab that people are just constantly picking at, and I realize that that's me not caring as much as I should, I guess. I mean, I feel guilty about feeling that way, but I don't know. I just, like I said, it's just like, and maybe I have some growing up to do. Maybe I need to understand it better. I just as much as I say that I want equality and I want diversity and everything like that, the fact that maybe the fact that I refer to it as a scab or I say it's an agenda, that's my issue. That's my problem. I don't know. I wish I had better answers.
I don't know if you've looked over the YouTube chat, fellas, but there's some heating upness.
Like what? Like, go ahead. I mean,
seems that Suzanne is not a fan of the victim complex, or the terms victim complex or perceive an issue.
No, I wish she was in here. I mean, she says that she's unable to, and I don't. I send her the link, and you're welcome to join us anytime you want, Suzanne. I would want to hear you vocalize your point, and I yes, I know my cat is annoying, Chris, but I too, Suzanne, just want to be able to play games, and I want to be able to enjoy it. But the fact that this is one of those things where I've always said that I will continue doing videos and I will continue doing the board game media and I will continue doing this as long as it's fun. But this is one of those things where it's making it not fun, and so it makes me want to unplug, still do the videos and stuff, but just like totally unplug from the community and not be a part of it. I don't know. Because I would much rather just kind of be in the periphery and do my thing.
Right. And for me, Suzanne, I didn't see the Brawling Brothers thing. I don't even know what these guys are talking about. I didn't see the Twitter thing that happened yesterday.
The Brawling Brothers did a very, very bad, like, stereotypical Asian accent for their... like, I don't know if it was a podcast or a video or something along those lines. Just if you can, imagine what like Jerry Lewis did back in whatever, just like that. It was very offensive. It was very not.
And they're white, I'm assuming.
They are not Asian, no.
Right. Well, then they're just jerk-offs. I mean, it's but
yeah, I'm unaware of this as well. I just sort of chimed in and said, you guys were making a general statement. You weren't specifically exonerating someone's behavior.
Yeah. The thing with the Brawling Brothers is, for the full disclosure of the thing, they were announcing on their show that this was their 10th episode, and one of the two people said it in Japanese. Now, it's not the fact that they tried to say it in Japanese, it's the fact that they added in the very stereotypical derogatory accent to it. So that's what Suzanne and other people were offended by, and I completely understand why, because you can speak Japanese without having to act like you're, a character in some movie or anything like that. Stereotypical. It was like this Mr. Sato in the Karate Kid movie with the voice, his type of voice, but very over the top. And yes, I completely understand, where Suzanne was coming from, being upset with something like that, and that's her right to be upset with that.
Yeah.
Because of her nationality or anything. It's just she is upset. She probably would have been just upset if they did it with any other language. So she was upset, and that's fine. But the other thing is, I will say that there's different levels of people getting upset, and you can't, pick what level. Every time that someone meets me, I get the, hey, Tony, like because I'm from New York and I'm Italian. It's stupid, and you don't even do it right half the time anyway. I don't get upset and fly off the handle. Not saying I have thicker skin. I'm just used to it. You know what? I brush it off. But I know people who do get upset for stuff like that, and it's their prerogative to get upset. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Some people get offended by things easier than others, but that's something you can't say. I can't see why you're getting offended by that, because it wouldn't offend me. That's not something you can question someone getting offended by. So.
Right. But as far as the victim thing goes, maybe that's not the right wording to say. But what I'm trying to get at is somebody brings up an important thing like sexism in board games, and that's fine. If somebody disagrees with them, that person who brought up the subject will tell the other person that they're wrong. No matter what they think, they're wrong. And that's not right, because the other person has a right to think what they want to think. But the person who also brought up the subject will recruit people to be on their side, making themselves out to be a victim, in my opinion. And then they will antagonize this, and bring it up every week or 2 weeks or whatever. That's what I see a lot on Twitter, and that's actually one of the reasons I backed away from Twitter.
Well,
Go ahead, Rick.
Twitter is the world to be fire and forget. Just type out what you think well, I shouldn't say think, but type up what you believe, shoot it off into the cosmos, and then just walk away.
Right. But like you were saying, it just got this is an extension of the hobby for me. And that Twitter nonsense started making this not be fun. So I backed away from it.
But
Ree's a better person than I am for sticking through, but whatever.
well, that's true. I was kidding. I really feel like getting other people around them so that they can play the victim, I really feel that that's not right. Like, they happen to be a group of people who might have experienced similar things. And yes, they are a victim of whatever unfortunate event might have happened or thing might have been said, and they're together trying to combat that. But I don't at all see it as being a victim thing. Like, it's a group of people with a shared experience that are trying to fight against whatever injustice or stupid bullshit thing somebody just said. And it might easily be seen as a victim complex type situation, and I think that's why Twitter gets so ridiculous, because people are like, oh, sure, you again, touting this thing. And that's unfortunate, but, I wouldn't at all call people with loud voices victims and trying to rally the troops type stuff.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Dangerous to say or suggest. Like,
I think when they do that, I understand, certain people had similar situations and all that, But when it's constantly coming out day after day from the same people, it kind of cheapens the thought that these persons trying to get out. You know, when they just keep dwelling on it over and over and over. You know, instead of doing something to try and change it. You know.
Well, some people. I mean, this is something, and I think this is just a general statement about. There are some people that will take a disadvantage to try and turn a disadvantage. And there are also people who just want to argue, right? There's people who want to fight and debate, and there's contrarians, and I mean, a lot of this stuff with internet crap, and like, admittedly, Rhiannon, Lance has tried to pep talk me out of this stuff many times, where I'm like, I'm disappointed in this, I'm bummed in this, the backers attacked me today because we put a promo card in Ninja Camp, and I mean, I take this stuff to heart big time. So it's, I mean, when you say victim complex, my first thing is to think of a person that tries to take that angle and then turn it into the argumentative type person. I mean, not like a true victim, but a person that wants the power of that, right? Like the sort of weird power of taking the disadvantage, so that you can't fire back at full force, or if you do, then it puts you further into a place of wrong. I don't know. Is that what you meant, Barry, when you used that expression?
Yeah. I didn't word that right.
It's essentially what it is. It's a person that it's like a weird debating tactic, right? Like, it's like they put themselves in a place where they're sort of above reproach, and to me, that's not fighting fair. Now, if a person is genuinely infringed upon, that's a whole other topic. But
right.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of splitting hairs, and it's easy for me to say because I'm a white guy. So, I'm a white heterosexual male. I'm like, I won the genetic lottery. So, but at the same time, like, I don't feel like I should apologize for that, nor do I feel that I don't really identify myself as being that. So maybe that's a problem, that I don't identify myself as being that. Or either it means that I'm more evolved. I don't know which one it is.
It's not that you're more evolved.
Really? I'd still have a vestigial tail, so that's
probably
got a point.
Maybe less evolved than you thought.
Less evolved, yeah. I have all 12 of my adult teeth.
Are you stunned by that, or what? Can
I ask someone a question just real quick? Can I just interrupt? Yeah. Does anyone know what the tiebreaker is in Blood Rage?
Give me a second, because I just played it 2 nights ago. And
I got in a tie, and it's driving me nuts, and I looked in the rules, and I've posted on BG, and no one will answer, and I need to know if I won this epic game tonight.
Give me a second.
And if you say the most sexist player wins, that's not... You're gonna get in trouble.
No. Just talk amongst yourselves. Let me think. Because I don't want to have to look it up. I want to just know it. I believe it is number of figures still on the board.
Where the hell is that in the rules, though? Like, you go to the rule, the final tally, and it just says the player with the most glory wins. That's literally what it says. One sentence.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. Like, it's like because it came up, if I remember correctly. How dare you talk about board games during our board game Google Hangout?
I just need to know this. You guys are all worried about this stuff, and in the front of my mind, I want to know if I won at Blood Rage.
The weird thing is that you say we're worried about this, and that's.
I'm joking.
No, I mean that's fair because it's obviously a problem, and why wouldn't we want our passion to be something that was more inviting, to a wider group of people. It's just, I don't know.
But it's a catch-22 in a way. So like Rhiannon, to go back to a point we were making earlier about like people talking directly to publishers and things like that, to have a little bit more accountability, or at least like a little more perspective when it comes to including women and people of other race other than white people in games. Like, how would you react? So say I put up a post and I was like, we're looking for four females to be in our game. I feel like if I did that, like in order to try to help combat the all-male backer issue, etc., that would be totally perceived the wrong way. I mean, do you think that's an accurate conjecture here?
So you as the publisher are like, hey, we are looking for 4 female characters for our game.
Yeah, and people can submit pictures, and we will take the most creative person who comes up with a character, but we limit it to just females.
And the male characters would just be however your artist draws them. I think there would need to. I feel like there would need to be more criteria than just female characters we're going to pick 4 of them, like based on what I feel like that. I don't know. Because a lot of people might submit like women, like people have problems with them being represented in a game. You might create nothing like it might just all be buxom women. It might just all be big boobied, little waisted women. And if that happens, are you ready, willing to deal with that? Like, or are you gonna be like, we want diverse like women, not just Pamela Anderson here, like
You know something I forgot actually that happened in our first campaign? We had a card called Lady. It was like a lower card. It was a villain card, and the power was that if you got knocked out by that, when that was one of the villain cards, you lost more points. And the idea of the card was, the art was she was like a dominatrix, but we didn't want to say like mistress because that implies sort of like a sexual connotation. So we chose Lady, and people got way shitty about this card. They're like, "Oh, what are you saying? Like, it's embarrassing if you get beat up by girls." So we were essentially shamed into changing the card. So we changed it from Lady to Mistress, and people had less of a problem with her being a dominatrix than they did just being a plain female, like, word. Now, I don't know if because making her a dominatrix made her more assertive. I don't know if that was the issue. We remade the card Lady later, used the name Lady on a different card, and no one had a problem with it. But for that particular card during the campaign, people were shitty, really shitty.
Like, you mentioned this, and this is something actually that I wanted to actually touch on. You know what's weird is that, like, in the last, and I must be getting old, and that's why, because in the last like 4 or 5 years, when I just see like gratuitous boob shot for the sake of gratuitous boob shot, I'm just like, come on. It's like, it just it annoys me. I mean, it really does. It's like, and I don't think it has anything to do with me like saying, can't we respect women more? It's just like, really, people are like gonna buy the game just because you happen to put a totally ludicrous, only exists in fantasy woman on the cover that has basically the amount of clothing equal to a fruit roll-up on, and like is that I mean, are my fellow gamers just so weak-willed that they can't not buy a game that's got a half-naked woman on the cover? I don't know. I just that whole mentality, that whole it must do something, right? And that just makes me sad, actually, that's the case. Now, when I was 21 and full of hormones or whatever, I mean, I'm sure I would have felt differently. I mean, I attribute it to me just getting old, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But I mean, it's dumb. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous.
Lance, I know why it bothers you. It bothers you because that publisher is saying, oh, the people who play my games, who are men, are all 12-year-old boys in their mentality. So we got to give them boobs, and we have to give them cleavage and scantily clad women because they're 12-year-old boys because they play games. And that's what bothers you because we're grown people. Men, women, whatever. We're grown people who play games. I have a kid who's old enough to drink now legally. I don't need your little Sailor Moon in a little short dress with her boobs sticking out stuff. But that's why it bothers me. Like, who are you selling this game to? Is that supposed to be something I'm supposed to be wanting to have in a game? That's why I think it bothers you, because that's why it bothers me.
I'll agree with on that level. And the thing is that what also pisses me off is that there are that it gets that reaction. It gets that reaction from people that I consider my peers. Men in their late 30s who are like, oh, check this chick out. It's just like, really? I mean, you're the same kid who used to giggle when you'd see the Sphinx with naked female breasts in the old Monster Manual. I mean, it's just like, it's like you've had a chance to evolve. Let's actually move forward with our life here. Don't get me wrong. I can appreciate a beautiful woman, and I can appreciate a beautiful scantily clad woman. There's a time and place, and I don't know. It bothers me.
Did you guys talk about the 5 tribes card change thing?
No, because who cares? I mean, honestly.
No, but I mean, isn't that on topic, though? Like, that's an instance of someone...
We talked about that back when that happened.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, and it is on topic, because, obviously people had a problem with it. And the thing is, what a stupid decision. But... like Joel mentioned a long time ago, why didn't people have a problem when Spartacus came out? There were cards that are just called slaves in the cards. There are cards that are obviously both male and female prostitutes that are slaves. That are like basic. So if you watch the show, you knew of these people, and it's just like. So where was the uproar with that? I think it was just more of the fact that it wasn't a thematic game, so, it was, whatever. I don't know.
Well, could have been the target audience for the 2 games, too. I mean, you're not going to play Spartacus with a 10-year-old,
Well, bite your tongue. 10-year-olds.
Spartacus has a card called Jupiter's Cock in it.
Yeah, it's really... Could have been that. I don't know. Hey, the Estonian joined us.
Yeah, he's too cool for school. He doesn't want to impress us with his Estonian wisdom.
Robin is the most sexist person I've ever met.
I slept through. My
I didn't think you were coming, Robin.
I slept through. I had every intention of joining earlier, but yeah.
So, Robin, I know things are different in Europe with this sexual and racist stuff. They're a lot more civilized with it, I guess you would call it, more equal-minded. What do you think about the whole thing?
Well, okay. First of all, I don't really know what's been going on because I've literally just joined you on what's been said, and also I missed everything that went on Twitter yesterday because I was busy coding SQL data. So I don't really know what's been said and what's been going on and what the actual topic is involved in talking about. But from a general standpoint,
field, buddy.
Yeah. From a general standpoint, whilst everything isn't perfect, I would say there is a very different opinion about things over here. Maybe an opinion isn't the word. Maybe people just don't have an opinion. Things are a lot more equated. I mean, I come from a country which is run by a queen, which has one of the longest-serving prime ministers was a woman. I moved to a country where the last prime minister was a woman. So, you know, and as I've said before, my wife is always open to or welcome to play games with us. She chooses not to the majority of the time. That's her decision. I think people... I can't work out if people don't have an issue with it because there isn't an issue over here so much, or because they don't care if there is an issue, or maybe they're just not vocal enough about it. So it's I don't know quite how to answer it.
Well, do you think it's any different in Estonia as opposed to the United States?
Seriously, just for people who I couldn't comment about Estonia, but for myself coming from the UK and for myself coming from or living in Denmark, I would say that in the UK things probably aren't quite as equal. And they aren't necessarily as equal here either, but it's not because anybody's been excluded, it's just because of where the interest factor lies. So I mean, I have a gaming group which is on Facebook where I think it's around about 80 people have signed up for it, and maybe 3 or 4 of them are females. And I think it's just because the majority of them aren't interested in it. And my wife, as I say, isn't interested at all in it. It's just no interest whatsoever. And occasionally she'll come along and play something because the kids want to play it. But I mean, she likes knitting and stuff like that. That's her choice to enjoy. It's what relaxes her. And when I have family over, for example, I try to, I ask them if they want to play. And my mum, stepmother, they're both happy to join in once in a while. They enjoy playing. With regards to things like equality throughout designs, I mean, you see the German games anyway over there. So, and Days of Wonder being partly French, I guess, if you're talking about the Five Tribes thing, which is where I joined you. That was a business decision they took, but I doubt it was for the French market that they took the decision. I actually think it's probably very much more for the American market that the decision was taken.
True.
Because it's their biggest market.
So Robin, I know I've expressed to you before that I was a, quote, Anglophile for a very long time. I spent about 7 years dating 2 different British girls. And I spent a decent amount of time in the UK, and I mean, I saw racism, but I saw it in a different form. Specific.
Are we talking racism or sexism?
Oh, I thought we were just talking about discrimination. Period.
Or general, just okay.
So, like the Polish labor workers in the UK, like I heard it was the equivalent of like people complaining about Mexicans stealing, quote, our jobs in the U.S. It was very much that, from my experience, and I wasn't in London or anything. I was down in, I was in Leicestershire, and God, what's the name of the stupid town? Just north of Brighton. I can't remember the name of it.
No one here knows it anyway. Move on.
No, but it was interesting. Like when I was there, just because it is discrimination, but right. I mean, it's just.
Okay, when it comes to race, there's very much more discrimination in the UK, but again, and I think certainly that people from a minority background would definitely step up and say yes, there's huge problems with it. I would say it's probably not anywhere as or had repercussions to quite the extent that it has in America. But I mean, England, the British Empire, has invaded so many different countries and brought back people of all nations, presumably to work as slaves during that time period. and where I am now, a lot of social issues have occurred a few years back with what they call second-generation kids. So it's where the first generation have come over as immigrants, and the second-generation kids are being brought up in the lifestyle here and speaking the language and anything, but are, for some reason or another, rebelling against the norm, as it were. And right now there's a huge problem with immigrants trying to get into Europe from, be it across Turkey, across the Italian-Spanish borders from Africa, and so on and so forth. And what happens is they're kind of coming in and then migrating up towards the north of France and then trying to get across to the UK. And that's a huge issue at the moment. So in that respect, I was only talking about sexing when I was. I think there is probably a race issue. I think people take it very much more chilled back attitude towards it on the whole.
This is surreal for me right now because Eric Lang knows that I asked about the tiebreaker, and now he's just messaging me pictures of him and Bebo flipping the bird. They've sent me like 20 of them. I'm not even kidding you. I'm not even kidding you.
Are you kidding me?
No, it's ridiculous. He won't tell me the tiebreaker. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, he won't show up. He won't show up for Alaboom either. So he's just being.
Damn it, Rhiannon! I'm not even laying on my stomach. It's not fair that you get to lay down. We agreed that when we lay down together.
Well, my back is very bad, so suck it.
Your back is bad.
Wow. I mean, ultimately, and this is gonna sound a little bit what's what I'm looking for here, mean, I guess, in a way. I mean, ultimately, it's like this has been a really good discussion, but I mean, unfortunately, I mean, it's just like as well. I always just I'm such a naysayer that I'm like, well, it was a good discussion, but it ain't gonna fucking do anything, you know. I mean, it's just like it's just other than I mean, like Joel Eddy put it perfectly when in his video blog that he released earlier today. The best thing about these conversations and the fact that it is forcing people to kind of address it to themselves at the very least, and to kind of watch what they say and be more cognizant of what how they act and the dialogue that they have and to avoid things. And I think that's the best. I think in a weird way that's the most that we can hope for. I mean, and I should say that is the most we can hope for. We can hope for a lot more than that. But I mean, I think it's the best that we're gonna get in a way. Until there's a radical shift. If more women start playing board games and get into the hobby more, if it becomes more diverse, that will lead the situation down the path towards eventually this discussion will never ever have to be made again, and I think that would be excellent for the hobby, obviously.
What if women just don't want to play games?
Well, and that's fine. I think my wife, she plays games and she will play. I mean, but it's really weird. It's a very eclectic grab bag. Like somebody said, oh, it's a party game, so then girls are gonna like it. But it's like my wife's favorite game is Dungeon Quest. It's just like, but she also enjoys party games, or she likes King of Tokyo, and so like there's these lighter games. Then out of nowhere, there's like Dungeon Quest, which she like demands that I bring with us whenever we go to any kind of a gaming situation, and just I think it's just because she likes the idea of me being killed by the dragon or whatever, and so she can laugh at me. But I mean, it's it's a weird world, I guess, and I don't know. It's just I get. I don't know.
I have a friend.
Go
I
ahead.
have a friend who's got two daughters, who are, I don't know, what are they, 14 and 9, something like that. And he's obviously played games with them as they've been growing up. And what he's noticed is that when they reach certain ages, they've started to drift away from playing games because, for example, I think it's probably what happened with a lot of us when we were growing up as children, when we started playing games at home. And then through the teenage years, you kind of drift away and your interests fall into more, more, I was going to say more sociable things, but like, hanging out at the mall and doing other things, and interests suddenly grow into, okay, what is that boy doing or that girl doing, or they start forming relationships with the opposite sex more, and it's then the thing to hang out at the cinema more and stuff like that. So there's a natural progression through not just females, but also not just women, but also, or girls growing up, but also boys growing up, where they do begin to drift out and start getting other interests. And then it's a question of whether they come back into the hobby, which seems to be what happens mainly with as a male thing rather than a female thing.
Well, I think a lot of people just don't know about the hobby. Like, my wife will tell you, before I got into it, she had no clue that the hobby was as big as it is. And when I got it and found out that there was, racial things and sexual things involved with it, I didn't believe it at first, because I figured the hobby was so small that, it kind of escaped me how it could be, such a small group. But I later learned there's plenty of politics and all that in the gaming hobby, especially with the social media side.
Well, I think, and obviously I don't have any kind of like science to base this on, but there are a lot of men at conventions, and a lot of those men are married and they have children, and guess who's at home with the kids? It's the wife. So whether she wants to be there or not, there might be other responsibilities that keep her away from that. Just like a while back there was a conversation about, minorities and why is it all white people at conventions? Well, conventions are expensive, and if you want to look at, larger societal factors that impact certain races over others, then, you start getting into like, well, there's more jobs, there's less time, there's like, it's maybe a single parent home, like it's larger things than we can just say we need to have this present so that everybody's equal and things are bubbles and sunshine. I'm muffled. Oh well.
We can hear you. Don't worry about it.
I thought it was calling you a muggle.
It would be it would be nice if it could be bubbles and sunshine.
That's next level discrimination, Robin. Calling people.
Yeah, goodness. Oh, you're not magical? Ouch. And while intentions might be pure and good and stuff, sometimes it is things beyond just we need a movement. It's things that we can't control, and while it would be great if there could be bigger, better representation for everybody, and or less representation of dick faces, then the gaming world might be a better place.
But that's what this all boils down to, right? It's assholes. That's the real problem.
Correct.
It really doesn't matter what race or what set of genitalia or sexual preference they're rocking. It's assholes at large.
Yeah.
I tend, after spending the first half of my life running around and being straight edge and being very politically obsessed, like I view my life completely the opposite way. I tend to be very microcosmic. I care a lot about my friends, my family, my immediate surroundings, and trying to be something good in that instead of, I don't know, on the side of the interstate picking up plastic bottles. Like that's just how I look at the world now.
I just pick up on that, what you're saying about conventions and the men going and the women staying at home. in Essen, it is very much more of a family affair, which means that Saturday is an absolute crazy. And I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. The fair was held during the school holidays, and it was crazy busy because of all the families that were there, and the pushchairs that were there, and what have you. And I think here that fair is very, very much more family orientated, where the German family comes out maybe just for the day and visits the fair.
Well, that was going to be my next question, isn't it? You know, one, it's cheaper to go there just ticket-wise, but also it's more local. Like, it's like, oh, we're going to take our family to the thing for the day versus, like, we're traveling 1,400 miles to get here and staying and doing all these other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you guys not friends with lots of gamer couples? I feel like I'm friends with a lot of gamer couples.
No.
Weird. I mean, there's a little local group called the IndieCon group, and I would say that the majority of the group is probably about 150 people. Most of these people are couples. Like, they are couples. It's really weird. I never really thought about it.
Both of them are equally into gaming? Because, I mean, there are couples in my groups where usually it's the woman who gets drug along and is like, yay, I'm here to play for 8 hours. I only want to be here for 30 minutes. I don't want my life.
So they do a local thing called 13th Tribe, and it's at
that's an expansion of 5 tribes and a half.
Yeah, that'll be that'll be just a few more years down the road, right? Keep making that mistake. So maybe they'll bring back slaves. Maybe slavery will become in vogue again, and then they'll flip it. The fakirs will be out. The slaves will be in. So anyway, the 13th Tribe thing. There's a lot of couples. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Now, when once you do this thing called IndieCon, it's kind of like the Cool Mini or Not Expo thing, but there's no vendor presence whatsoever. It's a tiny con. It's really little. It's like 150 people. It's invite only. And there's a lot of couples that will have, the grandma and grandpas watching the kids for that weekend so that they can go and equally game. So, I don't know. My wife is not, I can't even think of the last time we played a game unless you count arguing as a game. I lose every time.
Now, for me, it's my family basically, and I'm usually the only male. It's either me and my wife, or me, my wife, and my sister, or mother, the sister, or whatever. But with beer mongers, there's one woman who comes steadily with her husband, and she's more in the gaming than he is, I believe. And once in a while, another woman will come with her husband. And that's the only thing I got to go off. Like I went to Origins twice and Unpub, and even there it was vastly more men than women.
Hey, Barry, let me ask you: do you you say you mainly game with your family and they're mainly females? Is it them that ask to play the game with you, or do you ask to play with them? Or do you have it scheduled out where every week you just play, and so it's not really a discussion?
At first it was me asking them, and now it's them asking me. And sometimes it is scheduling just because of Jen's working schedule. She's got to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning every day. But yeah, now they ask me. They got a game day together, like the sister-in-law and the mother-in-law and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, their tastes are very different. Like my wife is very competitive. My mother-in-law loves the screw the next guy games. My sister doesn't like direct conflict games. My sister-in-law doesn't like silly games because she feels stupid playing them, like party games, stuff like that. So they're very different. Sorry,
I know this might be revolutionary, but it's almost like people are unique individuals with their own interests.
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
No fucking way.
And on that bombshell.
In the beginning, I kind of fell into that. Like, we played something that was kind of competitive, and Jen didn't like it. I forget what the game was. But then we played 1775, and she loves that game.
It's a good game.
So maybe it's just a game-to-game basis. I don't know. And there's other things that are very competitive, like Imperial Settlers, stuff like that.
So I feel inspired from this conversation. My conversation is that anytime a man comes in and says, I'm looking to buy a game to play with my wife or girlfriend, I'm going to suggest Fire in the Lake every time. Flat out, Fire in the Lake, and then let them take that shit home and see what kind of gamers they really are.
Have you played that game? Is it any good?
Have I played it?
Yes.
I haven't played it.
Oh.
There's
Fire
not
in
enough
the Lake?
in it for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd rather play Andy and Abyss, but it's still a very, very good game.
Mm.
How about Dominant? I'll tell him to play Dominant Species 2 here.
Well, yes, that's a winning decision, but not as a 2-player. It's not good as 2. Don't tell
That
him.
game is my favorite game.
Tell him to bring some friends over, and then they're good to go.
That's my favorite game.
Definitely my top 5.
I played Blood Rage 3 times today. I didn't win. I got second twice, and I tied for first once, and that's why I really want to know. And I played. Have you guys played Code of 9?
No.
I own it. I haven't played it yet, though.
So goddamn weird. It is the weirdest. Everyone's score was negative, and I ended up winning negative 7 points.
Wow.
It is the weirdest. It's one of the weirdest games.
Look who's bragging.
Oh yeah, big bragger. Second place. Listen, buddy, I was a DJ. I was a DJ for 5 years. If you want to play sound effects, I've got 400 keys right now.
All right. Well, I mean, I think we covered it.
All right, that's enough of that. Let's
somebody
cut that
put it
out.
away. Somebody put the toy away. All right. So I think we covered a lot of ground, and it was a good talk. I think there was a lot of like I said, I didn't come into this thinking we were going to solve it. I didn't think we were going to you'll light the world on fire or have like some moment of innovation where we like, oh, I know what we can do.
What if we would have solved it? Wouldn't that have been more fucked up?
I think we can when it's been suggested often times tonight. Don't be such a fucking dick is the solution.
Do you think that this show is long enough that it is the perfect platform to solve this problem?
Perhaps.
Just by
But I do think it is one of those things where it's like, yes, don't be a jerk. It doesn't matter how you were brought up. It doesn't matter what else was said. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. It doesn't matter if whatever. Just don't be a jerk. Don't be a racist, sexist bastard. Don't be an asshole at the table. And just like.
But you just said bastard. You automatically assumed that the person was a man that was being mean.
Well, he automatically assumes the person was born of unwed parents.
Well,
bastard
yeah.
is not,
Like my daughter. Do the math. I'll be married 5 years, come October, and my daughter is 8. So, not hard to figure out. But
all right, you gotta carry the fool. Hold on.
There's our.
All right, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're gonna wrap this up, but I mean I appreciate everybody being very honest with how they feel, and I appreciate everybody listening who listened to what we had to say, and like I said, just if there was a takeaway, I guess I think if I may be speaking for everybody here, but don't be a jerk. And if you encounter a jerk, call them out on their jerkiness. And also, don't be so sure that the way you feel is automatic than what somebody else feels. And I would like to say one last thing. Actually, I'm going to give Rhiannon the floor because she has something that she wrote. And what?
Nothing.
No, this was excellent, and and it's the last thing you're going to hear. I'm not going to have anything to say after this, but Rhiannon wrote something. I would call it somewhere between an essay and a poem, but I think it was. I think it's pretty damn awesome and beautiful. So I'm going to give her the floor, and we're going to let her say it. So
no pressure.
No pressure at all. So go ahead, young lady.
Everything I'm about to say is going to be wrong. No matter what I'm about to say, there will be fault with whatever it is I do say. You see, I'm not a feminist, at least not the way I'm being told I'm supposed to be. There aren't enough women in this game fix-it way. The why are all these tits hanging out fix-it way. The you only use masculine pronouns fix-it way. The there need to be more women at the table fix-it way. The I'm talking, now you listen way. You see, to me, a scantily clad warrior on the box of a fantasy game, shit yes, that's who I want to be. Because me, who I am outside of board games, is not a 6'4" svelte warrior woman. Me, who I am outside of board games, is a 5'4" plump mother of 3. When I look around and don't see other women, I remember I'm in a position where I can forget all the things I should be tending to, the shopping, the cooking, the cleaning, the bedtimes. Forget for a night where I can remember who I am outside of mom. Forget for a night where I can remember just how lucky I am. Lucky I can spend too much time playing games. Lucky I can no longer have to live in fear of what tomorrow holds. Lucky I can dress and act and say what I please. Lucky that I can be the woman I choose to be. Then I think about how not all women can choose, how not all women are equal even to me. They're not equal in ways that have nothing to do with art on a board or words in a book or numbers in a room. When I think of making it equal for women, it doesn't involve games at all. It involves freedom. It involves giving courage to women who are too afraid to leave their abusive home. It involves feeding the children of women who can't do it alone. It involves teaching a grown woman to read so she can be the woman she chooses to be. So I'm sorry that everything I just said is wrong. I'm sorry I can't be the feminist I'm supposed to be. I'm not, however. Sorry, I'm me. I hate you all.